get ready for a really not good looking transition. Unless this fixed it, let's see. Go. Damn. Okay, it didn't fix the it didn't fix the transition at all. Stranded team, hello! Raid from the moon. Were you stranded on the moon? Oh no! Hello, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome on in. Let me see what you were playing. Hey, Dream Daddy. I know all about Dream Daddy. How are you enjoying it? A raid from the moon! Who doesn't love a 5 frame per second transition? Listen, I'll take it as a genuine improvement if my computer doesn't blue screen during this stream. That is the hope. That is the dream. Yeah, I'm doing well. How are you doing, Bryce? I'm doing all right. Yes, I was actually they learned a lot from my game. We'll say I don't know. I've never actually talked about how I was involved in them officially, so I don't know if I'm supposed to. Considering OBS has been interesting for the past few days, I think OBS is. I think I updated OBS yesterday, and I think that was a mistake. But I was updating everything yesterday. We figured out the RAM was the problem. We figured out so many things was a problem, and yet now OBS is literally eating my CPU for breakfast. So God only knows. God only knows what's happening. And look who's thuggin'. Hello. To strike the fear of many gods into my computer. I believe Smite might do that itself. Thank you for resubscribing. Welcome back to the fold. The RAM only had a bajillion 1-bit errors. It's fine. Since when does it have narrative? See, this is exactly why I wanted to talk about Smite. I don't think that it has a narrative in the conventional sense of the term, but narrative design is about more than just literally like the story that goes in a game. And that's basically why I thought Smite would be, also I've been playing a lot of Smite recently, but that's 100% why I thought that Smite would be a really interesting thing to talk about as far as narrative design goes, because we'd be talking about where the narrative comes up. Smite like does technically have a narrative. It's got like the like itty bittiest. I don't actually know what the real 100% story of Smite is, but I do know that like in theory all of the gods in Smite are fighting to, I think they're fighting either against evil or against each other or both, to become like the one supreme god to rule the world theory. Like they're trying, and like a lot of them, like if you read the lore about their gods and goddesses and why they've ended up in Smite instead of staying in their respective spaces, like when they bring in a new god, they're like, Morgan Le Fay has joined because blah blah blah. They're like, Yamoja has joined because she wants to save the world from this terrible threat, and she believes that if she were in charge, she could do that, and like that kind of thing. So there is kind of a light story, you know, just enough justification for a MOBA, but yeah. Right now they're fighting against Tiamat, basically. Olorun is like the head god right now. There you go. So that's part of what I think is gonna make this interesting, is that like the story of Smite is really not what's important. The story of Smite is much more the story of the individual gods, and like that's where the narrative design is, and I'll like explain as we get into there. That being said, I don't necessarily know if Smite has a narrative designer. Narrative design is something that like crosses a bunch of different departments, and so often like a lot of artists are like kind of like proto-narrative designers because they're helping shape the narrative through their art. It's one of the reasons why you have a narrative designer, is so that the narrative designer can go to like the musicians and work with the artists, and like everybody can collaborate together to make sure that what they're making ties into essentially the product first and foremost. Narrative designers, depending on where they're working, can almost be like directors. But yeah, this is exactly why I wanted to talk about Smite, because it's not the kind of thing that you think about when you think of narrative design. The story of Smite is the friends that we made along the way. You're correct. Oh, also, come in gay rights. I got one of the shirts. Come in gay rights. I'm proud of this shirt. It's the first time I'm wearing it out in the world. Yee, sorry. That's one of the things that we're going to be talking about. That's one of the things that we're going to be talking about for sure. I think that there's a lot to discuss. One of the things that's most interesting about SMITE, in my opinion, is that it's been around for such a long time. I think it launched, I think Connor said, and like Connor knows way more about SMITE than me, so I'm approaching this from a narrative design perspective, but I know that there are definitely people who know more about SMITE than me, so if you know either more about SMITE or more about any of the individual gods that we're going to be talking about, if you know more about like their myths and legends and stuff like that, just please feel free to add any information into the chat, because I'm bringing, you know, my knowledge of the mythology I know and my knowledge of narrative design, but I'm not an expert in everything by any means. But one of the things that's so interesting is that SMITE was made in like 2011, which if we're thinking about the gaming industry and what was like popular and what was considered, you know, what was considered marketable and everything at the time, compared to 2021, it's 10 years later, the stuff that we consider, you know, appropriate to put in our games now, a lot has changed, and yet, you know, the characters that SMITE added in the beginning are still there, and so that is one of the things that I want to talk about, because there's been a definite change in terms of how they handle a lot of different things. We'll say. The old game is old. You're just gonna be excited because you love SMITE? No, that's totally fine. I've been playing so much of it. Oh, 2014. Okay, there you go. So 2014. So that is what is that? 7 years? 7 years? I think. Math. And yet the game still crashes. Well, that's because of the architecture that it's built on. I think Connor said that like the engine that they built on, because they ran it in like 2014, it's the old engine updated to run for new computers. They never made a new engine. They just stuck with the same old engine, and that's why it crashes so much, is what Connor was saying. Avatar: The Last Airbender crossover? Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. However, the Stranger Things crossover weirds me out exclusively because it's weird. I just like, I liked that SMITE has that cartoony art style. I don't like that now we're introducing like characters based off of real human beings who exist and are physically in the world. Like it's based off their actors, right? And so I'm like, oh, that feels weird. It feels weird, but it's fine. I don't care. The people who love it will love it, and I don't care that much. I'm just like, it sounds weird. We'll see when they actually get in, like how it looks and whether it like seems jarring at all or not, you know? You have a highly detailed knowledge of a narrow domain of heroes, probably. There's like 150, 60 something. There's a lot of gods in SMITE at this point, so there's plenty I think that you would know about. Of course, Scotty, and you play her every opportunity. I don't, man, I'll show you. We can talk about skins, because we can just talk about SMITE too, just because I've been playing it so much. Also, again, another broad shout out. If you want to play SMITE with me and also with like the other mods like Zek and Cliff and Connor, Cold Complaints, Connor has his own Discord for SMITE, like literally just for SMITE. It's for his videos and for SMITE, and anybody is allowed to join. So there's a link in the Discord if you want to join that Discord, and like anytime you want to play, just be like, oh, who wants to play? Or if you want to learn how to play, Connor's super down to play at all times. So that's the official Discord for doing that. That's where all the organizing happens. I can't be bothered. Just so you know. Yeah. It was fun. It was fun that you joined us, Yellow Ring. It was so fun. 114. There you go. It'll be what you learned from reading the profiles of different personas. Kind of. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. Here, let's just get into it. I'm excited. How long have we been streaming? Well, whatever. I'm late today. I'm excited. I'm late today. Let's just get it going. Where is this gushing about folklore and mythology Discord? If you look in the hashtag the Fold channel in the Fold Discord, there's an invite in there, and you can click join, and it's what is the name of the Discord? There's a SMITE logo, and it's named Icetown. That's how you know. That's how you know. Car streams exactly when she means to. Correct, Roni. I only ever stream when I mean to. Okay, here, let me, I'll pause the music. My computer is not dying yet, and I will transition. Oh my god, maybe I did fix it. That was a smooth transition. Okay, and now let's... Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I gotta relaunch Smite. Smite froze. That's fine. Smite freezes sometimes. I had it already pulled up, but it froze, and that's fine. One of the things about Smite is just that Smite is really old, so it breaks a lot, and thank God Smite gives me this sense of security because my computer's been breaking so much, but whenever I play Smite, I'm like, oh, that's totally Smite. That's not my computer. End task on Smite. Let's relaunch it and get it back up. And hopefully my computer will be able to handle both at the same time. I didn't go back and roll back OBS or anything, so hopefully it'll be fine. But we did. Hey, Marky Jean! Hi! Thank you for the crown. Smite died so the transition could live. Maybe. Frankly. Maybe. We're breaking free. We're soaring, flying. There's not a star in heaven that we can't reach. If you're trying, then we're breaking free. Man, what a callback. I know that song because Disney played it exactly that many times. Exactly enough times for me to memorize the whole song. Ah, sweet. There we go. It's working perfectly. Seems like my computer isn't overloaded. Seems like the music isn't too loud. Cool. Let us get in there. You found the former drama kid? Come on. You guys didn't already know that I was the former drama kid. Nah. I'm also one of those people who, how do I say this? I'm a lyric-focused person, so when I listen to music, I pick up the lyrics really quickly. So I have literally hundreds of songs completely memorized in my head, some songs in foreign languages. It's one of those things about me. Okay, so this is Smite. So as just as a quick disclaimer for anybody who is new to Smite, because I know that there's going to be lots of people here who are new to Smite. Should you get on Smite for the dual screen experience? I mean, if you want to. Smite is what I would describe as a little bit janky. So like as a result of being old. So this is like one of the things that just happens frequently to software that has like that you've just kept for a long time. There's just a lot of like, as you explore Smite and you get to know it, it seems like there's a lot of odds and ends that haven't necessarily been squared away, or ideas that they tried once and they like did like one loadout of it and then they like stopped. Like, for example, if you go here and then you go in here, there's these loadout screens where like you can open up chests and you can get different avatars and you can get all these different things. However, one of the things that they have is this HUD theme, like the theme for the whole game. But I've never found any way that you can get any other HUD theme. So they don't really have that at the moment, but it's an option here. Connor said that they might be intending to move on that now in the future, but this has been an option for a while, and it just, yeah, so there's like little things like this where it's like there's not, like, it's hard, you know, they're just, one of the other things about Smite is that Smite is not like not made by AAA. It's Octodad. Hey, Kenobi! Smite is not made by like a AAA group. According to what Connor has told me, Smite is actually made by like an indie studio, essentially, and they've been supporting it by themselves this whole time. So Smite, you know, Smite is, well, I say an indie studio. I don't know if you could call them like a small indie studio anymore, but they don't have like AAA. They're not AAA. It's not like, this isn't like Overwatch. This isn't like League of Legends. Smite is kind of its own thing, which makes it kind of uniquely special because it's managed to get big enough and stay big enough to support itself, and that's actually really hard to do. Enjoy your lurk, Mysterio. By the Paladin Studio. Got it. Yeah, and so according to, hey, Metal Corpse Man. Thanks. Yeah. Double A. Yeah, double A I would agree with. Is they're not necessarily an indie studio anymore, but they have enough money, just not the like hundreds of millions of dollars that and like the literally hundreds of employees that the teams who work on Overwatch and League of Legends and stuff have. So it's not surprising that there's like, I'm not, if SMITE was AAA, then they probably would have been able to afford to build a completely new engine where everything runs completely the same. And that's also one of the things about building a new engine, is that building a new engine, you can almost guarantee that the gods are going to play differently, their abilities are going to work slightly differently, the meta is going to dramatically change. And so you can see why that, like in a MOBA, you can see why that wouldn't be something that you're necessarily keen on doing unless you absolutely have to, because it would change the fundamental experience for everybody at the same time, and not everybody is gonna like that. Considering they're the third biggest MOBA in the game. Oh, are they? Whoa! Good job, SMITE! Okay, so anyways, also as a brief explanation for people who've never played SMITE before, there's a bunch of different game modes in SMITE. So you have Conquest, which, like, as you can see on the little map here, is the standard mode. It's the mode where, like, there's a team on this side. Oh, my face is covering it. Let me hide myself. Okay. So as you can see over here, this is the map. So you can see that this is kind of like the standard situation. You have one team here, you have one team here, and they're fighting against each other in the middle. You have the jungle, you have different towers that you have to knock down. And the goal is to kill the Titan that lives here or lives here. This is like the team match. It's also like the official match, the way that people play. Then you have Arena, which is literally a circular arena where you go in and you beat the heck out of each other until one of you wins. And the goal is basically to run out the other team's tickets before your team's tickets run out. So you basically kill each other a lot in that mode. I don't know what this mode is. I've never played it. Then there's Joust, which is basically Conquest, but less people. You have Assault, which is one lane, and you get a random god to pick with. I actually really like Assault mode because, like, everybody's pretty chill because nobody expects you to be really good at all 116 gods that are in the game. So it's a really fun mode to just, like, try out different gods and see what happens. Then there's Siege mode, which I also don't know, and there's Battleground of the Dogs, which I also don't know because I'm a noob. But yeah, so those are the general game modes in SMITE, and let me bring up my face again. Hi. Yeah, so just for those who were curious about, like, what SMITE is and how it works, I might play a couple rounds of Assault later on, just because I think that might be an interesting way for us to talk about the gods. Because there's 100 of them. So here you can see the rollout of all the different kinds of gods, and the gods are organized into different classes. For SMITE, you got your assassins, which are assassins. You've got warriors, which are warriors. They attack and they're buff, and they, like, can take a lot of hits. You got your guardians, which are primary support, healing, and tanks. You've got your mages, which are, like, ability-focused spellcasters that do a lot of damage. And then you've got your hunters, which are your carries, your, like, ADC carries. And then you have a bunch of different people from a bunch of different pantheons, and yet they didn't give you a method to search via pantheon, which I think is interesting. You just have to go alphabetically. Which character just got the... Oh gosh, what is his name? Hang on, let me find him. Kukul Khan, I believe is his name. This one. I might move my... Let me see if I'm gonna move my face a little bit down. Oops. A little bit down. Yeah, hopefully that'll look good so that we can see everybody. Yeah, so he just got the beach noodle skin. I don't think it's in the game yet, so I can't show you. There also are, like, a ton of skins in this game. which is also a very interesting thing to talk about. Like, I've noticed a lot of things that make me interested as a person of color. I've noticed some things. But overall, there's a very wide variety of skins that I think is awesome. The noodle is indeed the best skin so far. I agree. Hey, Metal Corpse, almost 1 year. Thank you for resubscribing. Welcome back to the fold, and welcome to the nearly 1 year. NBZ, hello. Thank you for the raid. Welcome in. Can somebody please exclamation point thank NBZ for me for the raid? And also thank you for resubscribing. Welcome back to the fold. Ooh, Little Nightmares 2. That's one that I haven't gone in to touch yet, but I've heard it's pretty good. We're just here playing, well, we're discussing the narrative design of SMITE right now. That is what we are doing. And so we're looking at the different kinds of gods that exist here. Skins are how most free-to-play multiplayer games fund themselves. Yes, and let me tell you, the skins in SMITE are hella expensive. I'll start with, I'm going to show you one of the skins that I think is the coolest in the game. And I'm also, Just Been Gaming, thank you for following. Enjoy your apprenticeship here. But this character is actually probably a really good character to start off with because Aphrodite, I believe, was one of the OG gods and goddesses. And Aphrodite will form a very great contrast when we start talking about other female characters that they've added later in the years compared to who they added earlier. So let's go look at Aphrodite. Boobs! So this is Aphrodite. She's got a lot of boobs. She's very boobular. I'm sorry. It's the only thing that I can like think of when I see Aphrodite is I literally spent real money to get this skin because I felt uncomfortable playing her base skin because it was just a little too nude for me. And this is still a very I think sexualized skin, but it's not as bad, which is interesting. So Aphrodite is boobular. Yeah, exactly, Bryce, exactly. So I didn't actually think about like how to approach and get into the narrative design topic. So what I'm saying is if any of you guys have any questions, feel free to launch them out at any time because it's not like I have a graph of all the things I wanted to talk about. But one of the things that I think is and Aphrodite's got some like problematic skins, but it's fine. I mean, because like we're gonna expect that there's gonna be some problematic stuff in this game, right? Because it came out 2014, different time in our culture, different time in gaming's, just different time. And so because it's a MOBA, because it's online, because people have paid for this content, it's not the kind of thing where you can easily make changes to anything that you've already released to take it out of the game or to change it to make it maybe a little bit less offensive, because then you're messing with content that people have already paid real money for, and that gets complicated very fast. That being said, this version of Aphrodite that we're seeing here is already an altered version of Aphrodite. So there was a time in SMITE when all of the female characters that they had were proportioned differently, and they went back at some point later on and redesigned all their like really old characters like Aphrodite to make them look a little bit more human. Did I ever watch the Game Theory where Matt Pat talks about how the sexiness is accurate to the myths? No, I don't. I have thoughts on Matt Pat. But that was actually something that I was going to talk about, sorry, is about Aphrodite and this, because this is not actually accurate to the myths, but it's cute that Matt Pat tried to make it so. That was their reasoning for going with this, and I think that with some characters it works better than with others. So with Aphrodite, I don't actually think that sexualizing her in this way works, because that's not really what beauty meant to the Greeks and the Romans, really. But for other characters like for there are other characters who are like historically known to be seductresses, historically known to be like, that was a part of their myth, is that they were very sexual, they slept with people, they tricked people using their sexuality. That's like a part of them, like Daji. Daji's myths are like that. She is an incarnation of a fox spirit, but she also, like, in this art incarnation that they picked for Smite, the myth that they focused on was the one where she came around in human form and basically seduced an emperor and then took over running the country for a long time, which is an interesting myth in and of itself, as far as, like, you know, I see an evil woman came into your kingdom and she's the real reason that the empire fell. She's the reason that everything was going wrong in the country. I see. Like, it's interesting from that perspective, but as far as, like, her character design goes, it makes so much more sense for this character to be sexual in that way than it does for Aphrodite to be sexual in that way. So part of the thing that's fascinating about Smite is how, like, marketing, the time period the game was made in, the original interpretation of the gods, and, like, what our personal perceptions of beauty are now exist. Because you can see, there's just so many gods in Smite that you can start to see patterns that are interesting. The Greco-Roman mythology tended to sexualize the males more than the females, though. Yeah, in a lot of ancient art they were nude, but they weren't sexualized because it's kind of disrespectful to get off to a literal goddess. Hera is generally more sexual than Aphrodite, as you recall. She is the goddess of beauty and love, but not necessarily... I don't believe that she was ever a goddess of sexual love, but she was the goddess of beauty. The thing about... So it's... One of the things that's, like, that we're going to be talking about when we're talking about the narrative design of Smite, and one of the reasons that we're talking about it as narrative design, is because there's choices that you have to make, right? Like, we're talking about not just historical figures, but we're talking about ideas, myths, creations. I mean, I don't know, gods, goddesses, I don't know what you want to call them, but things that people worshipped, things that some people do still worship, depending on which of the gods we're talking about. And, like, which gods they picked, why they picked them, and how they chose to represent those gods are all choices that you have to make, as well as, like, which abilities they get and how to reflect their lore in their outfit, in the way they attack, in their sound effects, in the way their abilities function, and how their abilities are stylized. These are all parts of decisions that you're making in the narrative design, because gods... all of these individual gods come with their narratives already. Like, that's why Smite has so much narrative design in it. That's why I find it so fascinating, is because you have to make a lot of choices about what exactly you're wanting to include and how you're wanting to represent these gods. And that's where the narrative design comes in, is how are we representing the narrative of these gods in the actual game? And so obviously I'm going to be talking about it, but I want you guys to know just right off the bat, I'm talking about this because it's interesting, it's multi-layered, they do some things really right, they do some things really wrong, and that's kind of to be expected in a game like this. Like, in a game with 116 gods, you're gonna have some wins, you're gonna have some, maybe we shouldn't have ever done that, but it's too late now, in them. And this isn't like a call-out post. I'm not here to be like, Smite sucks, and I'm also not here to be like, Smite is the best or anything. I'm just here to be like, let's think about how people had to make these decisions to put them into the game, and like what that reflects, and what kinds of creative... But if you're not aware of the kinds of creative options and choices that you're making, you know, what you get is different. And so Aphrodite, I feel like, is a really interesting character to start off with for that reason. For one, translations do make a big difference. Well, so that's the thing. Yeah, but that plays into the understanding of love that the Greeks and the Romans had, which is somewhat different than ours. That's what I was meaning. Like, she is the goddess of love, but, like, not in the same way that we would consider it. And she's the goddess of beauty, but also not in the same way that we would consider it. So obviously, because she's the goddess of beauty, they decided to go all in with, like, sexualizing her. And again, she was one of the original gods that came out in 2014. So when we're thinking about sexualizing a character, we're thinking exclusively about a male audience. And like what we in the West, I mean, in the US now currently consider sexy. And so like the Greeks at the time weren't interested in most of the things that like we're showing off here with how she's designed. Like this isn't necessarily what would be considered beautiful. To like beauty was a much more pure and like what's the word that it like almost moral kind of thing. Like beauty was an ideal. Beauty was like a whole concept. Like beauty was a whole thing, right? And Aphrodite was the goddess of beauty, but that didn't mean that she was the goddess of sexiness or attraction or anything like that. She was the goddess of this beautiful ideal. And there were a lot of other ideas wrapped into the concept of beauty, of like morality and honor and like all these different kinds of things wrapped up into the concept of beauty. So yeah, it was a level of perfection to be achieved. Exactly, Chase. And so when we took it, when they took it into Aphrodite, and again, because this is at the beginning, and I'm going to contrast with some of the later goddesses that came out, but because this was at the beginning of SMITE, they kind of, they leaned into the marketable kind of beauty that we have in the West here now, which is like lean into the sexiness, lean in as hard as you can possibly be, more boob physics, make it jiggle. So that's how we got this Aphrodite here. And, you know, the different kind of movements that she makes, as you can see, where she like, you know, rubs her hand across her whole body and she casually, like she's placing her hands in very particular areas. Just like 30 seconds ago, she did a movement where she like placed one of her hands in her crotch, and like it almost like it's suggestive. It's suggestive on purpose. And they felt that they felt at the time, I feel like this was more of an example of them feeling like they could use Aphrodite in the method that they wanted to, which was for marketing, than it was that they were trying to adhere well to the myths. Whereas contrast Aphrodite with a goddess who came out way, way, way later and is one of my favorite goddesses in the game, Umoja. Umoja is complicated. Umoja is a goddess in Africa who like belongs to a lot of different tribes, and there's kind of different like Africa's a giant continent, so there's a lot of different myths. Here they have her as the goddess of rivers from the Yoruba culture. She's also like a goddess of the ocean. She's also kind of considered the mother of all life and the goddess of creation. It kind of depends on which myths you're going for there. But she also is considered the goddess of love, the goddess of compassion, the goddess of healing, the goddess of fertility. So she actually has a lot more of the like sexual, like birthing, motherhood. Like she's got a lot more of the actual sex than Aphrodite as a goddess does, because Aphrodite was, again, beauty was an ideal and it was perfection. It wasn't necessarily like, it wasn't like mortal attraction. That was something different, and the Greeks thought that that was actually like worse and debased and like bad because it made people not think straight. So Aphrodite was different than that. Aphrodite was a more pure form of beauty than that. And then we have Umoja here, who like is, I love her design. It's awesome. But you can see how, even though like this isn't an unsexy design. I don't think it's not sexy, but you can see how it's not a sexualized design. And instead they worked really hard to incorporate a lot of water, to incorporate the different kinds of fabric styles from the Yoruba culture where she originates. They worked hard to make her look like she belongs to her people. And you can just tell how much their approach has changed between the two goddesses, where they're trying to be a lot more faithful to the source material. Umoja is also sexy. Yeah, because so there's a difference between sexy and sexualized, and I feel like this is a good time to like nail down that difference, because sexiness is not bad. And like when we get into talks about sexualized characters, I feel like sometimes like, I don't know, when there's a lack of nuance, it almost sounds like any character who is sexy is bad. And like that's That's not what it is. But there's a difference between, it's about like purpose. And so here Yamoja is sexy, but the purpose of her design is not to be sexy. The purpose of her design is to be Yamoja. With Aphrodite, I honestly, the first time I saw Aphrodite, I didn't know that it was Aphrodite. Like, I was like, who is that? Who is playing that? Who is that? Like, I was like, what is this? Why does she look like that? And I didn't realize that it was Aphrodite because she's just kind of, like, all I get from this is sex and that she's magical and powerful and flies. But I don't really get any other, like, we don't really have anything else that necessarily points to this being Aphrodite in particular, I feel like. You never would have guessed Aphrodite. Yeah. OMG, those breasts, though. It's about the male gaze. The Little Mermaid versus Moana. Yeah, kind of. They still gave her ample hips and breasts, which are usually associated with birthing and motherhood. They just didn't overdo it. Yeah. For Yamoja. Yeah. Yeah, I super agree. And so, like... okay. It's always hard to try to talk about the difference between being sexy and sexualized because kind of everybody's line for when it crosses over into sexualization is going to be different. And that makes sense because it's influenced by our culture. So, like, currently we think certain parts of especially female bodies are the sexual parts. So, like, back in the 1800s, nobody gave a shit about boobs. Boobs were just there. You used them to feed children. Like, there were certainly people who liked boobs, don't get me wrong. But, like, for most of history, boobs were not the scandalous part. The legs that we so freely show nowadays, the legs were the scandalous part. So if you think about, like, 1920s flappers and how everybody was scandalized because occasionally when they would dance, you would see their knees flash. and like, yeah, so the legs were very sexy and the boobs were not really as much of a thing. And so what is hypersexualized is going to be different depending on, like, the time period that you're talking about and which culture you're talking about. What's hypersexualized for us is not necessarily going to be the same thing that's hypersexualized in Europe, because people in Europe just have a whole different approach to the human body than we do in the West. In colonial times, it was women's elbows. Don't look at my scandalous elbows, please. Having prominent breasts might have been considered lower class in some cases. Oh, yeah. You only used them to feed children if you were poor. Oh, man, isn't it wild how much has happened? Oh, God, sorry. Yeah, that. But one of the most important things when trying to determine whether something is sexualized is to ask, why is this here? And, like, that can usually get you to the answer right away, because a lot of the times when something is being over-sexualized, it's there not because it's the natural way for the character or the actress or the woman, and, like, I'm just going to focus on women here because it's predominantly women. It's not that it doesn't happen to men too, but, like, you know, let's just focus on the one thing to make it simple. It doesn't seem like the way this character would dress or act or behave. It doesn't seem like the way anybody would necessarily want to dress in the circumstances in which they're in. Like, it would be like, you know, a bikini in the snow seems impractical and uncomfortable, and it seems like the woman would suffer a lot, so it seems like that is exclusively for whoever is supposed to find her sexy and hot and less for literally anything else. And you can see it in movies where there's a lot of disposable female, like, extras and stuff like that, or, like, you see a lot of in some shows you see, like, women get cycled in and out until we, like, find the female character that the audience likes and we stick with, and the women who are cycled in and out are usually portrayed as romantic interests, like one night stands for the male character usually to, like, hang out with, and it's like, conquest, and it's like a whole thing, he's like a ladies' man or whatever. It's, you know, that kind of thing. So it's about why is this here, and is this character more than just their sexuality, or is their sexuality the defining characteristic? And then additionally, is this character or actor a person who and this gets a lot more complicated, but like, this was the debate about Bayonetta, is like, Bayonetta is a character who is designed to like be a very sexual character, like as a person, Bayonetta thrives on her sexuality. It's a huge part of who she is. She loves it. She celebrates it. It's in everything she does. Bayonetta was also primarily designed by men and like used as a very sexualized marketing tool. So like there's nuanced discussions to be had about how we feel about Bayonetta, and is she actually about sexual liberation, or is this about her being, you know, sexually objectified, or is it both? It's probably both. Secret answer, it's both. But but like, you know, there's a lot of, so there's like nuance to be had here. It's not always clear cut, but it is important to talk about. Is there anything inherently wrong with having super sexy characters though? Yeah, there is. And we'll talk about, yeah. Yeah, okay, so actually, okay, so this is kind of like, so, okay. We're gonna get into something here because it's an important question, and it's important to know why people talk about the sexualization of characters so much. When it's presented out of context, it does kind of seem like, oh, is this a big deal? It's just about how a character looks. It's like not that important. What is the quickest way to summarize this? Hang on. The reason that we care about when characters or women or actors or whatever are portrayed as just sexualized beings, is because it veers into the objectification territory. So you respect at least laying your cards on the table. And again, there's literally there's nothing wrong with liking sexual characters. Like, there's nothing wrong with wanting your characters to be sexy. There's nothing wrong with liking sexy characters. I'm not gonna get mad because you like sexy characters. That's not what this is about. But what the danger that sexualization can bring is because it leads to objectification, and it leads to and we're gonna get into a discussion of rape culture. I'm not going to get graphic or anything, but if that makes you uncomfortable, this is your warning to, you know, go take a break for 15 minutes. But we're going to talk about, like, rape culture. And so objectification and sexualization are very closely linked. And objectification is something that doesn't just happen in terms of sexuality. Like, objectification can happen to anybody for a lot of different reasons. Objectification can happen through like racism. Objectification can happen through like tribalism, through us versus them tribalism. Objectification is just the process of looking at another human being as if they are only an object, as if they are a tool that has a purpose, as if they are just a body, as if they don't have their humanity. And so there's a lot of different ways that people throughout history have been objectified. You can argue that, for example, prisoners in the United States are currently objectified because they're treated as, you know, they're not treated as humans. They're treated as bodies. They're used for labor, and like, that's the end of it. They're not really cared for in terms of their humanity. So objectification is a thing that happens to a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. Do I think Tifa was over-sexualized in Final Fantasy VII-R? I thought that they handled Tifa a lot better. I wasn't a fan of her outfit, but that's just because, like, I don't know. It just was weird. It's fine, but like, they did the thing where they like presented her and they were like, this is Tifa. And then everybody complained about her boobs not being big enough. So they made her boobs bigger. And that did weird me out a little, but mostly because I'm like, if you're going to design a character, just stick with your design. Don't like cave to public pressure about something as stupid as the boob size. It's fine. Tifa seemed fine in Final Fantasy VII-R. I didn't really have any problems with her. Oh, I'm reading. Yeah, okay, so So yeah, sorry. I got distracted. I was reading what you guys were saying. The problem with over sexualizing someone is that they cease to be someone and they become a something. And so it as silly as it is to say, even things like character designs and characters in shows and things like that, when you think about like games and when you think about movies and TV shows, these are all visual media. Lindsay Ellis actually had a really great essay about this, about in Transformers, the character that Megan Fox played. Megan Fox's character is actually the most developed character in Transformers. Like, she is the best written character in the entire film. Like, hands down, it's not even close. It's not even a competition. But you don't remember anything about Megan Fox's character. Like, I literally don't even remember her name. You don't remember anything about Megan Fox's character because film is a primarily visual medium. And so what you remember is her body and how her body was framed. And her body was framed as, like, look at this sexy body, not look at this character who is a whole person and has this whole history with, like, mechanics and like, she's got this whole thing with her family, and her father's in jail, and she's trying to pull him out of jail, and she's trying to clear his name, and, like, she had this whole, like, cool character arc, but literally all we remember is that Megan Fox was hot, and that's because the emphasis for her character was placed way more on her being sexy than it was on her being a human. And so that actually ruined Megan Fox's life. Like, that wasn't something that just had an effect on Transformers, the movie, and that character. It ruined Megan Fox's life because after that movie came out, people looked at Megan Fox and assumed she was stupid, assumed that she just got the part because she was hot. They assumed all these negative stereotypes about her because the movie had objectified her to the point that nobody was interested in seeing her as a human after she came out. And, like, the entire rest of her career, she spent time fighting against that perception of herself as just, like, TNA. And she never actually really truly overcame it. That's what the movie Jennifer's Body is about. And yet in the marketing for Jennifer's Body, they just focused on how hot Megan Fox was instead of focusing on what that movie was actually about. It's like it's a whole thing. But best written, worst shot. Making a person a trait instead of a person with a trait makes them less than and okay to be treated that way. Yes. Tokenizing anybody for any reason, yes, makes them less than. You remember she was a mechanic and that was it. All you remember is the car washing scenes. Yeah, I literally remember the car washing scene, and there was a scene where she was hot on a motorcycle. Like, that's all I got. Yeah, and so the danger of that is that when you objectify someone, and I've actually talked a lot about this in regards to racism. Whenever I see anybody I hate objectification of any kind. Objectification is not a thing that we do here. It's not a thing where, like, no matter how much I dislike somebody, I am not going to objectify them, because the instant you objectify somebody is the instant that you become okay with violence happening to them. And so people who are objectified are people who it's their own fault that something bad happened to them. People who are objectified deserved it in some way. Like those are the kinds of attitudes that we have towards people who lose their humanity and who we only see as, oh, this thug or this criminal or this, oh God, I don't even want to use the word, but like slut. Like, these are the terms that we use to refer to people who we've made less than human so that we can compartmentalize them and we can fit their misfortunes into a tidy little narrative where it's just their own fault. There's nothing that we need to be worried about for ourselves or the people we loved. It's their fault. And we're not caring about the, like, real human suffering that goes behind it. So that's objectification, and that's the problems with objectification. And where objectification leads is harm every time. If you are objectifying somebody that you are trying to date, for example, I have had this happen to me. If you objectify someone that you are trying to date, you don't care about where their boundaries are. you don't care about what they want, it suddenly becomes okay for you to try to convince someone or manipulate someone into doing something that you want, because you don't care as much about what they want. You care more about what you want because, again, they're objectified. They're a body to you. They're not a real person whose likes and dislikes you need to listen to and incorporate and find compromise with. They're an object that can be attained. And like, this is the problem with pickup artists and stuff like that, is that they objectify women in this way where they treat them like they're all objects to be conquered, and you have to try to manipulate them in order to get what you want, and they try to take the free will and like the free choice of the person to accept or reject you out of the equation as much as possible. That's where objectification leads, because you're focused on acquiring the thing that you want, and when the thing that you want is another living being, it leads to harm when you're wanting to disregard their humanity in order to get what you want. So this is why we talk about sexualization so much, is because sexualization and objectification go hand in hand, and they can come out on the other end in real violence for real people, because people are conditioned to look at things in a certain way. You know, it's not a hard leap from to make the conclusion that because someone was wearing something a certain way, they deserved it, and all that kind of thought process. Those are all connected. We talk about sexualization because it can be so completely harmful when it becomes objectification. And that's why it's so important when designing sexy characters that you respect their humanity and you make them more than just sex. Aphrodite in this game reads to me, at least in her default skin, she reads to me as just sex. She doesn't read to me as anything other than sex. Like, it doesn't seem like they went out of their way to try to symbolize or code her with more than like she does magic and she's sexy. But whereas Umoja's still very sexy in my opinion, but Umoja, they clearly, like, you look at Umoja and you're like, this woman is a queen. She's regal. She carries herself with this strength that like automatically helps you know who she is. She does have large breasts and large hips, but that ties into her like more of a motherhood thing than it does into like a sexualized thing. And like, you can just tell by all the other aspects of her design that they had a lot more that they wanted to communicate than just that Umoja was sexy. So they're characters, they're not real. You can get attached to them, but they only exist in their universe. Yeah, and sorry, that's where we come to that misconception that humans can make a big distinction between reality and fake characters, and we can't. We really can't. Again, with the example of Megan Fox. Megan Fox's character was a character in a movie, but Megan Fox, the real person, had to suffer lasting consequences for multiple years because of how one director chose to frame her character in this movie. And so it's not something that can be limited just to, oh, it's just a sexy character in a game, it's fine. In the same way that, like, you know, watching porn influences the way you think about real sex. Even if you know that porn is not how real sex usually goes, it's going to affect your if like that's the only thing you've seen and that's the first thing you come into contact with and that's predominantly the thing you're in contact with, then it's going to affect how you think that should look, how it should sound, what should happen during it. And humans are not, like, scientifically speaking, there's been a lot of studies done. Humans are not actually good at separating those things out. We're visual animals and we kind of file things into visual categories in our head. So even when it's a cartoon, even when it's something as far removed as a cartoon, we still carry pattern recognitions that we apply into daily life. And so that's why sexualization, even in something as seemingly harmless as a game, can come and impact things in the real life. Hi, Anna. Hello, Anna. Would they affect any real life group or groups of people particularly you're curious of? Yes. Yes, the answer is yes. Hello, Jim. Hello, Jim Noge. Hey, and congrats on 2 years, Jim Noge. Thank you for resubscribing. Welcome back to the fold. And Anna, too. Thank you as well. Welcome back to the fold. Sorry, so I missed what everybody was saying. I've paused the game so that I can go back up and read what everybody was saying while I was explaining the kind of complicated process of sexualization and objectification and how that leads into rape culture. Lots of fun, happy conversations here. Let's see. Okay. Usually your mind associates objectification with sexualization. Yeah, and that's like probably the most common way that like we talk about objectification is in regards to sexualization, but it is very important to recognize that objectification is just the process of reducing a human being down to an object and like not categorizing them as human, because that like that's what happens with xenophobia, that's what happens with racism. Like there's a lot of different aspects, there's a lot of different ways where objectification happens and just removes the humanity from someone. And obviously if someone's not a human, then you don't feel the same level of guilt when harm befalls them or you harm them, right? So it's very important to just kind of keep in mind all of those things. Also, sorry, still catching up. Oh yeah, Bryce. Yeah, Bryce. You said it even better than I did. I say? Yeah, and Chase too. Mm-hmm. Hey, we've got a hype train going as well. That's also why VR is super dangerous, because the human brain takes in those experiences as if they were real things that happened to them. Yeah. And in the same way, actually, like even things that we just imagine in our head, even like memories, just whatever we imagine in our head, our bodies physically respond as though they're literally happening in front of us. So even though like we can close our eyes and know that something's all imagination, or know that what we're watching is a cartoon, like again, the science, like they've done a lot of studies on this at this point, and the science just bears out we're not good at being able to distinguish between these things. Like we're just not. I was thinking the other day about like marketing and how wild marketing is, because I was like looking at Zek has like, beanies, beanie caps, and they have like they have their like elastic in them. I was looking at a beanie and I was like, oh my God, that beanie is just like the headdresses that like the head cloths that they used to wear back in the 1800s. And I was like staring at it and thinking like, how come when I see a beanie, I don't think, that's literally the same exact thing that like people have worn for hundreds of years, that I've seen in paintings on like peasants and stuff like that. How come I associate it instead with hipsters, with like a certain level of like marketability, with a certain price? Like it was originally an article of clothing that is considered, that was considered lowly because peasants wore them. And yet marketing has taken the beanie and turned it into something that like literally we think of as an exclusively modern garment. Human beings are dramatically bad at countering any kind of marketing at all. And we're even worse at it when we think we're good at recognizing marketing when it's happening. So like when you're watching something and like there's marketing and you're like, I see what they're trying to do, we're actually more susceptible to being convinced and influenced by the marketing in that time. I think that because, the things that we see everywhere are so ubiquitous nowadays, we really like don't understand on the same level that we would if we like took ourselves and we went to a cabin in the woods and we spent like 5 years in a cabin in the woods and we didn't like look at any advertising, and then we came back out into the world and like watched an ad for the first time and like thought about how it's actually affecting us emotionally, what we're thinking about, what we're wanting. Are we craving something now because of the way that they presented that thing to us? Like marketing influences us so heavily, and literally everyone doesn't think that it does, and like the science just doesn't bear that out. What about violence? Can you draw parallels between the arguments I'm making about sexualization, objectification, and the portrayal of gore and aggression in the media? You absolutely can, my boy. You absolutely can. And there is a big argument to be made about how it's because like female bodies get subjected to sexualized violence and actual violence in media a lot, but male bodies get subjected to physical violence in this way that is like not even like it's so weird that like our reactions to seeing things on TV are what they are, because obviously I'm having a hard time explaining this, but anyways, male bodies are objectified in media in the same way, and that they're considered disposable on and have historically been considered disposable on a like violent front in terms of like war, in terms of like crime, in terms of if there's gonna be a dead body, it's not gonna be the dead body of a child, and it's less likely to is it less likely nowadays? It used to be less likely that you would see the dead body of a woman. But now, like, you know, now things are... We're not living in the era of, like, Murder, She Wrote, where we had, like, discretion shots and we didn't look at the gore. We're like, oh, there's a dead body, and, like, we literally never see the dead body. Everyone's just like, yeah, that's a dead body. Like, you know, we're not living in that era anymore. Also, Heart of Goldfish. Oh, congrats on your 1 year! Thank you for resubscribing. Welcome back to the fold. Okay, I'm still catching up. I'm sorry. Oh, you saw the YouTube video where the actress playing Black Widow was asked if she wore underpants under her costume, and she said that's not okay. They wouldn't ask Captain America the same question. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Oh, and thank you for the 100 biddies, Metal Corpse Man. Oh God, Bryce. Yeah. No. Yeah, Bryce. Oh, the sexualization of Asian cultures is like a whole thing. If you don't see a character as a person and more a thing, the writer should probably feel bad. I mean, right? Right? Sorry. But like, that's what we mean, is that it comes down to these choices. So if it comes down to these choices where like Aphrodite is not really presented as more. Now, that being said, though, they have other skins of Aphrodite, and over time they've kept her sexuality as an aspect of her, and obviously they're working within the framework of the original 3D model as well. So they've kept the sexuality of the character, but they've started adding in other things. So like, this is obviously like Elsa from Frozen, but like, look at the way, you know, her hair is designed, her makeup is designed. This is all not just to be really sexual and sexy, even though it is, but it's also to give us an idea of her character. She's haughty, she's prideful, she might be a little bit of a snob, she's an ice queen, she doesn't need to talk, she doesn't like, you know, she doesn't need to pay you any heed. She's literally looking over you, not at you, because she's better than you. Like, so we have like different kinds of, and even the, you know, directions she's making are about her. She's that kind of character. So they've given her, oh, let's not go into that one. They've given her different skins over time. This one's a really cool skin, where you can tell, like, they've designed a time period, they've designed different animations to get across the way that this character thinks or moves or feels. And so you can tell how much more these designs bring to her character. Like in this one, she's this elven lady. She's got this cool kind of like half moon almost guard. And again, still very sexy, still very sexual, but you have more of an impression of who this character is, because there's just more attention to detail in terms of how the designs are, even though it's still very similar to the original Aphrodite design. Okay, hang on. Going back to, I didn't scroll down for the chat. Example, anxiety. That's a good point, Gus Bag, about the Megan Fox being her character being well written, but the visuals overriding that. That's a very good point. Um, Humans are bad. True. um, so is your usual habit of averting your eyes when ads play basically pointless? I mean, that I would say averting your eyes helps. I would say not seeing the ad helps more. Averting the eyes definitely helps because we are very visually coded, and it's 100% proven that if we see something once, or at like the more times we see something, oh my god, there's like an amazing book about how songs get marketed and like how songs become big. And secret, that's not really that much of a secret. It's all engineered through like careful radio like there's deals that people work out to play these songs in different places so that we're already used to the way the song sounds, so that when we actually hear it on the radio or on TikTok or wherever we're hearing it, we are more likely to like it because it already sounds familiar to us. And basically the way that the human brain works with music is just that the more we hear it, the more we are apt to like it, unless it creates a like really viscerally strong negative reaction in us, in which case like the more strong the negative reaction, like that can potentially build on itself each time we hear it. But more often, the more humans hear something rhythmic, the more the like better it sounds to us and the more we like it, because the brain just loves familiarity. In the same way that like that's why marketing is bad. We love familiarity, we crave it, we love categorizing things into nice simple little boxes. We're all about that shit. That's humans for you. So yeah. Okay. I think I'm almost caught up. I think I'm almost there. Oh, thanks, Elemental. Yeah, well, and Glenn, that's something that is just wild that is happening that like I've noticed over time. Oh, also, Dark Warless, thank you for resubscribing. Welcome back to the fold. Something that's just kind of wild that is, women get asked about their diet, where their male counterparts ask about how they prepared emotionally for their role. But like, if you've noticed that, oh god, Aphrodite. Ugh. One of the weird things that's been happening recently is that men are starting to be way more sexualized than ever before. So like we're entering into, at least, and like this is just from me observing now. I don't have any statistics or anything to back this up. So this is 100% just my opinion and super subjective. Keep that in mind. But at least from where I'm standing with the media that I'm consuming, the ads that I'm seeing, like the ways that social media is going, men are starting to feel a lot more pressured. Like male bodies are starting to feel a lot more pressure to look a certain way. Actors are like, especially like after the Marvel movies came out and like the superhero bod became like a thing, like now that is a thing, and like we like to interview male actors about like their hardcore workout regimen and like how dangerously unhealthy it was for them to get to the point where they looked like that. And people are like, people on TikTok and like people are starting to feel more of a pressure for male bodies essentially to have the same kind of to like stand up to the same like scrutinization of beauty that female bodies have been for a long time. So you see, and maybe this is more common because like I'm in the influencer space, and so you can imagine that at least within the influencer space there's a lot more pressure on people to look a certain way. But at least amongst the people that I know and like where I'm paying attention to, there's so much more emphasis on like, get your skincare down, go work out, get fit, like all those kinds of things for male bodies too, and not just female bodies anymore. I still think that the sexualization that each body undergoes is very different, because the ways in which we are like coming down on people and telling them that their bodies have to look and what kind of standards they have to adhere to and what the purpose of their body looking in a certain way is different, because I feel like female bodies are still meant to look good for men, and I feel like male bodies are supposed to look good as an example of their own level of achievement, more so than because it's necessarily sexy for women, but like more because it's like, look at how like pinnacle of perfection I am, that like I've got clear skin and my body looks amazing and my hair is on point and my clothes are amazing and I'm successful and I drive a Ferrari and my house is big, and like it adds on to the list of like men needing to measure up to a standard. So I feel like it's not exactly it's happening in the same way, but it's this pressure is ramping up for male bodies as well in a way that like I'm not like happy to see it. I'm not like yay. I mean, like I'm happy to see like more of an emphasis on male fashion. That's great, but everything else is not. Sorry. Okay, again, catching up. Everybody kept talking. You're a hardcore rap player. And then they reworked him, and while he was technically better, I was still sad. That's me and Yomoja right now. Oh my god. Hi, Connor. Yeah, and I think, and sorry, I think with Bayonetta, like, honestly, Bayonetta is not a character, I've never played the game, so maybe if I play the games, I'll want to take a stance, but Bayonetta is not a character that I necessarily think that there is a correct answer on. So I don't, like, people who love her, people who hate her, I'm just like, yeah, I can see both sides. I don't know that one side wins with Bayonetta. I think that Bayonetta is just a complicated character, and there you go. Ah, thanks, Chase. All right, good night, Bryce. Male bodies are meant to look good for the male gaze. Yeah, that's fair. And how manly they are. Yeah, exactly. It's a... Everything is for the male gaze. Yeah. To put chat into emotes only while I... put chat in emotes only. I'm sorry. Okay, I caught up. Oh, I actually caught up. Yeah. Yeah, I do use chat to bounce off of. I need chat there to kind of like to know which points I need to clarify and if I'm making any sense. I agree. I feel, yeah, the male gaze. It's so kind of depressing what like having one monolithic, I don't even want to say, because it's not like it's a person, it's like a concept. There's like, it's a culture, it's not fake, it's a real cultural force, it's like a thing, but like who created this? But like at the same time, everybody does still feel like there is, less so nowadays compared to like 10 years ago, but everybody does still feel like there's this monolithic dominating perspective, way to view the world, way to interpret the world, way to see yourself in relation to the world, that is embodied by the male gaze. And like that's who marketers are catering to. That's who, like, when movies are designing their movies for the largest possible audience, that's who they're designing them for. But it's like, who, I mean, we know who it used to be: straight white men in like their 20s to 30s with expendable income and no children. But can we even actually still say that that's the case now? That's the largest segment of the population that we want to cater, you know? It's a whole thing. Disney now controls culture. Yeah, exactly. And there's that misconception that when there's just always been that misconception with feminism that when we're criticizing things for like with it from a feminist lens, that's meaning that we're only thinking about women specifically, and that is not the case. So like the concept of the male gaze, You know, like all of the stuff that men's rights activists get upset about that like feminists aren't talking about? Feminists do talk about and advocate for those things all the time, literally, actually. So it's like a lie that they were like, feminists don't talk about it, because feminists are usually the people also advocating those same things, because like essentially gender norms are bad for everyone, kind of. Like, except for the people who the gender norms fit, gender norms are not great because they're forcing people into boxes who don't want to be in those boxes. And it forces men into boxes, it forces women into boxes, and then it pretends that nothing other than those two things exist and that you're not allowed to leave the boxes. Don't leave the boxes. So, like, it's just not a good thing for anyone. Oh, dear. Bless Pixar. Yeah, which is one of the things that I wanted to talk about with Smite, actually. Coop, you like the Kool-Aid guy. Same a little bit. But that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about with Smite, is because, again, Aphrodite was an extremely early character for them, and you can start to see the ways that they're reinterpreting what they did with her in the later character models, where they keep her sexuality as an important part of her character, but now they're adding these other things, and they're making it cool and visually interesting, and they're giving her unique animations and characters and different voices that make her sound different. And not Aphrodite. We're not going to look at Aphrodite. And the characters that are coming out recently are characters that are very well designed, often still very sexy, but not sexualized. This is Morgan Le Fay. She's the most recent character who's come out in Smite, and she's a fucking badass. I can't play her at all. She's extremely complicated to play, but she's awesome. And like, look how she looks. This is an interesting interpretation of the character of Morgan Le Fay, because a lot of interpretations that I've seen usually go more with like the enchantress, the seductress, she's evil. But instead they went with the core kind of motivation behind her character, which is that she wants to rule, or she wants her family to rule to some extent. And they made her more of like a night queen of darkness thing, that I think is, it like highlights different aspects of her character, where like in her facial expression, in the way she's moving, and the ways she's standing and positioning herself, and in the way all of her art is designed, she is interpreted as like a dominator, as somebody who is here to win and like rule over you. And she's powerful, and she's dangerous, and she's evil. And like, that's how she's characterized here. And all of those, I think, are valid interpretations of who Morgan Le Fay is. And more than just valid, I think that they're interesting takes on Morgan Le Fay, because I think we don't often see those kinds of interpretations of, like I said, we see more of the like seductress, sneaky, cunning side of Morgan Le Fay. We don't see power hungry, thirst for vengeance Morgan Le Fay, which is what this feels like. Don't sleep on my girl Bellona. I don't actually know that much about the lore behind Bellona, but maybe we can learn. It's dominating women, also very sexy. Yeah, and see, also very sexy. There's nothing wrong with sexiness. We love sexiness. Sexiness is great. Have them be very sexy. Just not sexualized. It's not the same. Let's just like take a peek at different. This is Amaterasu. This a very interesting interpretation. There's a cultural appropriation conversation that you could have with Smite, but one of the things that like I'm not always sure that I am equipped to have that conversation about other people's cultures, for one, and two, I'm going to remind you all that cultural appropriation is not an inherently bad thing. A lot of the times it can be bad, but cultural appropriation is just a term that is used to describe like using things from a culture that you don't belong to and appropriating it for your own purposes. You can be more and less respectful within that process, and there's like nuance in a conversation to be had about like, how do we juggle living in a global society and wanting to explore global themes, with the fact that a lot of us are outsiders to these things, yet we're wanting to incorporate them into the stuff that we make. I don't think that's an inherently negative impulse. I don't think that it's like you're not allowed to write anything that you're not a part of. Like, I don't think that that's the right move, but there's a spectrum there. So I just wanted to put that out there. As far as that goes, that like just seeing something is not from another culture is not inherently bad. It is about how it's portrayed and also about how the people from the actual culture feel about it. Nobody's really upset about Amaterasu from what I know of. The maid skin, though. I got the maid skin, though, because I love the cel-shaded look. Also, the maid skin doesn't feel like anime made to me. It feels like idol made to me. And for some reason, that distinction made all the difference. And I got the skin. Cara's point is that conversations need more nuance. Gusback, yeah. Oh, she's one of the gods who got mixed in a lot with Athena Minerva, but she's basically female Ares. Okay. Oh, I would love to. I would, yeah. Yeah, let's definitely, we'll definitely look into Bologna. Amaterasu seems like a lazy design. They didn't want to have to educate anyone about ancient Japan 1,000 years before samurai. Yeah, I can see that. And again, see, that's what I mean when I say that, like, I am not experienced enough to know whether this is a good representation of Amaterasu. I am not familiar enough with Japanese culture, even though I would say I'm probably more familiar than most Americans. I'm not nowhere near enough in order to have any kind of comment as far as that goes. Whereas like, and there's so many different kinds. Here's Susanoo, also from Japan, and they have like the little sign here so that you know which culture they're coming from. And like, one of the things about a lot of the SMITE gods is that they rely a lot on visual shorthand, in a way that can sometimes border on stereotype, but in a way that is meant to, when you're playing the game, to be able to like see a moving character who's like running around really fast and immediately recognize which character that is, so that you know their moveset and you know how to play against them and you know whether you need to avoid them or whether you can kill them and stuff like that. So another aspect of SMITE's like narrative design is the fact that they're wanting to visually communicate these narratives to you in a way that is quick, and easily recognizable. And so that can at times lean more on, you know, visual shorthand, which also sometimes leans on stereotypes. This is Morrigan, where again, an interesting interpretation of the character. I'm not as familiar with Morrigan as I am about other things. They have this lore section where you can read about the lore behind all the different characters. It has the right jewelry and correct time period sword. The Shining Heaven skin is way more culturally accurate. The Morrigan is multiple people, actually. Anu, Macha, Badab. These three goddesses were sisters. And then they joined together to become, now they are one, and they're the Morrigan. That's awesome as heck. I do love seeing how SMITE interprets each of the individual gods. And there's just so many different ones as well. And like, they're so cool. There's one of the characters I play is Medusa. And like I think her skin design is very cool. Like, again, kind of sexy. Like, if you're into it, I guess it's sexy. I'm not necessarily into it, but I'm like into it as far as like, this is cool as heck. Like, look at all this gold and like the thick scales on her snake body, and how her like face is wriggling. It's interesting that she's wearing a mask. I think that that was an interesting choice for them to make. Like, there's a lot there, and there's a bunch of, again, different skins that she has that are variously, there's like galaxy skins, nebula skins, like that, like this one. And this one, she's like a freaking centipede, and it's really horrifying, and this is the one that I want to use when I want to scare people I'm playing against. And then you have this different interpretation of Medusa where she doesn't even have snakes anymore. She's got horns, and like there's so many cool interpretations that you can do. So you could see Medusa being sexy. You want to talk about visual shows impacting. That's a way. Oh, I think there was an important point here that was made that I want to talk about. Coop. The fact that whether or not something is decent depends on the opinion and effect on the depicted people also applies to stereotypes in cartoons. Yeah, and it absolutely, like, it's important to listen to the actual people who the culture is from, but that also can be a little bit difficult because you obviously, like, you run into the, like, my friend said it was fine, though, so it's not bad argument. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I feel like if a large majority of the population that you are trying to be inspired by and honor and respect with your creation, if a large part of them are upset, then you probably messed up. I feel like that's an easy go. But it's also important to recognize, like, especially of late, that it's the impacted voices that matter. So there have just been a lot of cases, kind of, for a long time. Like, I can remember this happening back on Tumblr in, like, 2012 when I was still on Tumblr. There's just a lot of cases where white people will get upset about something because, like, they see something and it makes them uncomfortable. Here's where I'll bring up the Aphrodite skin. They see this. And it makes them uncomfortable because they don't necessarily know whether this is okay or not. And they want to err on the side of it's probably, like, if it's making them this uncomfortable, it's probably not okay. And instead of amplifying the voices of the people who are impacted by this decision, like, sometimes white people get angry on their own and just, like, form their own legion of people who are saying whether it's right or wrong without necessarily listening to the people who are actually impacted by it, and not necessarily, like, uplifting those voices, but actually shouting over them about whether it's okay or not. And it's important when those situations happen to be able to pay attention to the actual people who are impacted by the decision, because a lot of the times the people who are impacted by the decisions, like, have complicated feelings about it. Some people like it, some people don't, some people are mixed, some people, like, feel like it's nuanced. They're like, this part is okay, but this part wasn't. And, like, where there is that nuance with those communities, there's discussion to be had where you can actually learn and figure out what not to repeat and what to gain from. Whereas when those people are talked over and you're not actually hearing from those people, you're just hearing, it's bad, stop it, then we lose the ability for nuance, and we lose the ability to have like better things in the future. It gets taken away, but nothing good comes to replace it, because there wasn't that, like, there wasn't that here's how you do it better. There was just that outrage. So yes. Yeah, I agree. This makes me very uncomfortable. This also makes me very uncomfortable. I mean, I'm glad Aphrodite has a black skin, but I'm not sure that this, well, it's, which is another just general criticism to make of Smite. I think there are two or three black gods. Umoja is one. By the way, this Umoja skin Yeah, just unlocked it. Umoja is 1, and then we have Baron. Baron. Then we have Baron Samedi. And I'm not sure if we have anybody else. I'm not sure if there's anybody else. Although there are, like, POC skins of other gods. And so you can find... Oh, Olorun! That's the one that I was... Thank you. Okay, I thought there were 3. Olorun, I think, is the last one. Who's from the same pantheon as Umoja. And he's awesome. He's great. I love him. Yeah, they introduced the Yoruba pantheon in 2018, I believe. So it's not only just... It's been 3 years. And Olorun, I believe, was introduced first, and then Umoja, at least as far as the Yoruba pantheon comes, and that was in 2018. So 3 out of 116 is not good. Like, I understand they only just introduced the Yoruba pantheon recently. 3 black people out of 116 is bad. It's not good. And that's another interesting take on SMITE, is like the kinds of gods that they felt comfortable adding in. So obviously everybody feels comfortable adding in Greek/Roman gods because, like, come on, Greco-Roman gods, like, they basically belong to anyone. It's fine, but like that's how we treat them. It's like anybody can make anything in the Greco-Roman period and it's fine. They also went with the Egyptian mythology because Egyptian mythology is another, like, extremely popular pantheon, like, that a lot of kids in the West grew up learning about. Like, Egyptology was just a really big thing for a lot of kids. So they have a lot of Egyptian gods, and they have a lot of, they also have, at this point, they have a lot of Asian, like, generally Asian gods. So they have a lot of Japanese gods, they have some Chinese gods. I'm not as familiar with the lore for them, and they also have a lot of Norse gods. They have a decent amount of Norse gods, and so it's interesting. Like, it makes sense that these are the ones that they went with because they're kind of the furthest away in time from where we are now. There's not a lot of people out there still worshiping Greco-Roman gods or Egyptian gods that they can, like, hear from that will get mad at them. But I do think that it's, like, very interesting, partially because of, like, how much Africa culturally doesn't matter, we'll say. Which thinks, hi! I love SMITE. I'm having a fun time, SMITE. Also, hi, Barking Mad. I will say, one that I absolutely love, I love Pele. I love how they've done Pele. Pele is actually a goddess that I grew up with, because for 3 years I grew up in Hawaii because of military family, and in my school they would bring in elders from the community to teach us about Hawaiian myths and legends and lore, and Pele was one of the goddesses that I heard the most about. Pele is a volcano goddess who lives in, I mean, depending on the story, who lives in certain specific volcanoes on the island of Hawaii. And Pele is an extremely, like, she's like the volcano. She can be kind and nurturing and can birth new life, or she'll also fucking track you down and kill you if you turn her down on a date. Like, there's a whole myth about her erupting an entire volcano because she was standing on the side of a road and a guy didn't stop for her, and she was offended because she was like, I'm very hot and you should have stopped. Like, it's fine, but, like, these are the myths. These are the myths that she told me about, and I'm like, lol. And so, like, as Pele, I love the ways that they incorporate, like, the lava into her hair. I love that she's an assassin. I love how aggressive she is. Like, it 100% corresponds to the Pele that I learned about when I was a kid, is that she is a very, like, she's all in. She's all or nothing. She's just an all or nothing goddess. That's how she exists. She wants what she wants, and you obey her because she's a volcano goddess, damn it. So I love, she's hot just for the pun. So I love Pele and the way that they incorporated her into the game. Okay, so all of that we've been talking about, the early concept was more sexualized. When the community saw it, they recommended a lot of changes, and you get her current design. Wow, that's wonderful. I'm so glad that the SMITE devs listened to the community, because I will say that when I was like looking through the gods, I wasn't super impressed until Pele and Umoja, because again, these are two goddesses who I kind of have more of like a personal relationship with as far as like my history goes and when I learned about them and stuff. And like when I saw how Umoja and Pele were honored, it felt like they were very honored, and it made me be like, okay, maybe I can fuck with SMITE. Like, it was like, okay, like maybe Aphrodite is like this, but I mean, if Pele's like this, you know, clearly there's more to it here. But so far, like, everything that we've been talking about as far as the narrative design has just been visual design for gods. Like, we haven't actually touched on the other kind of main way that gods are implemented, which is their mechanics. So let me actually, like, which god do you want me to play? I'll play a god I'll go into to practice mode, and I'll play a god, and we'll like mess around with their abilities and kind of see how we feel about their interpretations. So let's go figure that out. Can we see some Pele skins? Ooh, we totally can. I guess I can just play Pele. I'll just play Pele. Pele. So one of the Pele skins is Azula, which is amazing.
Oh, great. More company.
We have like Cyberpunk Pele.
We are now one with the dragon.
Demon Pele.
Oh, this'll be
We
fun.
have a like what is it? I'm forgetting the word for this aesthetic, but you know, this aesthetic Pele. We have an interesting, almost like, this reminds me very much of like Soul Calibur Pele. Then we have this Pele.
Oh, great. More company.
Another kind of futuristic
Yeah,
Pele.
it's me.
This one is also futuristic. Pele's gotten a lot of skins.
Pele.
And then we have some of her recolors and her the skins that you get as you like master her and play her a lot. These kinds of skins. Okay, so now I actually have to lock in if we want to go. So we'll go off with Pele. The Azula skin? Green Pele. So obviously the visual design is one way to incorporate the story of all these gods, right? And Pele has so much in her design currently that is honoring her. The like crown of flowers on her head, very accurate. The tattoos, the fact that her hair is lava, her whole outfit being the color scheme of lava and dried lava, the fact that like some of the rocks that she wears around her neck looks like the kind of rock that you get from dried lava. Let me go level 20. All of these things are aspects. Okay, let's go to the Odin bots, I guess. So those are all visual ways of
Dance.
Hey, ladies of SMITE! Hell yeah! I didn't know such a thing existed. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm all for it. Could somebody please exclamation point raid thank Ladies of Smite for me? That's awesome. Hell yeah, Ladies of Smite. I'm full in. What? You were playing Smite? No way. So those are all aspects and ways that we incorporate the lore behind the god into the design of the god, as well as like the profile picture and stuff like that. But then you've obviously got the way that the gods play. And so you've got the way that they move, the way they physically run, the way they jump, the way they attack, the way they move when their attacks are out, what their weapons are. And on top of that, you have their voice actor as well, the kinds of sounds that they make and what they sound like. Ooh, sure. Sure, I would. Could you whisper it to me? My stream setup is weird. Oh yeah. Also, welcome everybody. Hi, my name is Cara. I am a narrative designer for games, and so I was talking about the narrative design in Smite because it fascinates me. But I also do stream cozy, chill games and lots of narrative-based games, and I talk about the narrative design, and like that's my whole shindig on here. And we also have we talk about the impacts of the things that we're playing on the real world and stuff like that. So that's what we do here. If that interests you, drop a follow. Otherwise, enjoy us talking about Smite. And I'm Isla. Thank you for following. Enjoy your apprenticeship here. But yeah, so the next thing is the abilities that everybody has. So one of Pele's abilities is, I'll go against you, is that she has these magma rocks that she can fire out, and they stay out there for a while and then they come back to her. So again, magma, clearly you can see where the volcano goddess magma, you can see where that's coming in. She has this kind of shockwave where she hits the ground and then 3 layers of like volcanic rock and magma erupt, which is very cool. And then she has this mode where this mode makes her move faster and do more damage, and the earth beneath her becomes like volcanic magma. And with that mode, if you press it twice, then you hear the drum beats speed up. It's because she's moving a lot faster. There's a whole bunch to her and how she works as a character, but you can see the impact of who she is as a god being incorporated very intensely into her abilities. And then her final ability is this volcanic lightning, where it's essentially inspired by the kinds of lightning that you see when a volcano erupts. There's like a plume cloud that comes out of the volcano, and depending on the kind of volcano that's erupting and the kind of eruption that happens, you can get chemical reactions within the plume of smoke that create lightning. And so what's happening there is she's like running forward, and that's where like the lightning strikes are from, is she's like, here, let's do it again so that you can see the animation. Reset level, reduced cooldown.
I'll support
No,
you.
not that. Reset cooldown. Reset cooldown is what we were looking for. So I'll do it again so you can see that. And when she attacks, she's like, there's like the plume of smoke that's filled with lightning that stretches out beyond her. And then you hear like the thunder crackling. So you can see how many aspects of her character are fused into the attacks that she makes, and also into the class of character that she is. Let's go look at another character now. Incorporating the concept into a build. Pele is so cool. Also, hey Dawn! A long time. Thank you for resubscribing as an Alacritus Alchemist. Welcome back to the fold. Alright, so let's go back into training and let's pick a different god now. I mostly talk about the girl gods because I mostly play the girl gods, and also because I'm mostly interested in the girl gods. I haven't any idea why that is. So let me see if there's another god that I am... Or what god would you guys enjoy taking a look at? There's Cupid. Discordia, Ganesha, Fafnir, Gilgamesh, Guan Yu. There's so many different kinds of gods. Hel, Himdalir. There's Cupid. Terra is another interesting one. Am I interested in the goddesses, or will I talk about any dude or genderless gods later? I can for the ones that I am familiar with. I'm somewhat familiar with Loki. I am familiar with all of the Roman, the Greco-Roman gods as well. But a lot of the, and the Egyptian gods, a lot of the gods in this game are gods that I'm not familiar with, which is one of the things that or Sun Wukong I know about. One of the things I love about Smite is that you get to learn while you play, or at least I do, because I pull open the thing and I read the lore on the gods because I'm a nerd. So yeah. You want to see Loki, Kepri, Cthulhu, Cthulhu, the one with the little hamster mane. That's Ratotsker. Okay. Loki. Loki it is. Loki's design is very interesting to me because this is not the way that you usually see Loki presented, like, anywhere. And I find that very fascinating. I first want to read what lore... Let me see if I'm going to be able to actually from here. Damn it. I don't... No, oh, can I... Okay, so I can't read Loki's lore from here, but we can read about his abilities. So you can see. Hi! Hi, Cece. So Loki is also an assassin character. So Loki is in the same class that Pele is in, which makes a lot of sense. Both of their classes are about not necessarily subterfuge. Like, it doesn't have to be subterfuge. Pele is a lot more aggressive. Loki's definitely more about subterfuge, more about coming up behind you and killing you when you are very low health, which plays into his trickster persona. And like, I think Loki as an assassin makes the most sense. It completely makes sense why they made Loki this way. So to incorporate the lore behind Loki, Loki deals more damage from his basic attacks when hitting enemies from behind, and his basic attacks also utilize a 5-swing progressive chain, which I think means... Yeah, so he does 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he also attacks faster with his basic attacks than most gods do. Then he has the ability to vanish. Here, let me set level 20 again. So he has the ability to vanish. You can hear when he vanishes, but you can't see him. So he'll vanish for a period of time, at which point he can, go up to somebody and attack them. I'm not actually that familiar with Loki's toolset. There's 116 gods, and I've only played like maybe 10. Loki summons a vision of his tortured past at a targeted location for 4 seconds. Enemies in the range of the vision feel the poison themselves. So this is a reference to one of the myths behind Loki. I've heard a bunch of different versions of myths where Loki is poisoned, Loki poisons somebody else, the poison ends up I've heard a whole bunch of different things, but as you can see, there's Loki trapped, and he's showcasing this vision of an illusion, which is another thing that Loki is Loki is a trickster god, and he is known for illusion, for lying, for subterfuge, for clever manipulation of words, for just all of this that is kind of being shown here in his attacks. And then he has that one that lets him do a lot of damage so that he can kill you. And then I don't actually know what number 4 does. It lets him backstab you. No wonder people die to Loki so much. Whoa, he's good. Zek is a Loki main. Loki does all kinds of shenanigans. Loki does a lot in all of his myths. Loki is honestly again, I've read a lot about Loki, but I feel like I've read 1/30th of all of the things that are out there. And like I came away from it with like, okay, so Loki has like a horse that he had sex with or something. Like I'm just like, what? I don't know that I know. I don't know that I know who Loki is because the myths kind of seem to vary a lot, except for the fact that he's a little bit of a jerk and he's really tricky and you cannot trust him. Don't trust him. He's very charming though, but don't trust him. Do not trust Loki. Loki gave birth to certain beings. Okay. Loki is a mother from Norse myth to horse myth. What type is Gilgamesh? I believe Gilgamesh is a warrior. Let's see. We can just go in and out of a bunch of different gods to show abilities real quick. I believe... Gilgamesh... Yeah, Gilgamesh is a tank, so he's a warrior tank. So he does damage, but he's also a tank, which makes a lot of sense. Oh, this is the skin that I have for Gilgamesh. It's like a... It's fine. I love it. I love the skin. But this is like Gilgamesh's actual skin. So that's what he actually looks like. Which I believe... God, yeah. Gilgamesh's, like... So Gilgamesh's passive ability is this really... Like, I played him once and I was like, this is fascinating. He gets quests as he levels up, and he needs to like go to a location on a map and like kill all of the guards, and if he accomplishes these quests then he gets a free item or money. And like what a fascinating way to incorporate like the concept of like Gilgamesh and like the epic that he goes on. Like it's such an interesting way that they incorporated that. I'm like scanning through what they have here. Oh, I'm not locked in. They might not let me go on because oh, it locked me in. Oh, okay. So Gilgamesh is working with Tiamat, but he's planning on betraying Tiamat. That's interesting for his character. And again, and it's interesting for his... It's interesting for his character because, like, Gilgamesh, like... I mean, I don't want to say he's a controversial character because I don't know that he is necessarily a controversial character, but he's like any other kind of very impressive but also tyrannical figure where it's like, there's cool things about you and also like, you know, and so I think it's funny when they incorporate their lore to that extent. Obviously Gilgamesh's character design is rad. So he's a warrior, so he moves pretty slowly. He attacks decently slowly. It's not really about the attacks for him. It's more about the abilities. He's cool in Final Fantasy. That's all you know about him. To Gilgamesh in Final Fantasy VIII. He's the character everyone makes fun of when they make fun of mythical heroes. Yeah, but why do they make fun of Gilgamesh, though? Yeah, he's from the very first civilization ever. Cut him some slack. I mean, I know, right? So let's see what his abilities are. So he goes on quests, for one. He can ignite his sword with the ferocity of the sun. He can drop kick people. That's amazing. He can do a hero's advance, so he leaps into the air and crashes down. A lot of people have, like, leaping abilities. He infuses the ground with an energy, causing a beacon to appear. Allies who run towards the beacon will gain movement speed. Interesting. So he can, like, summon people towards him. That's a fascinating thing to give a leader of, like, to give, like, not just to give somebody who, like, is known for having such a command and power of a place. Like he's not just a god, he's like a ruler. He's a like army leader, you know? Like he wasn't like, yeah, he was tyrannical, but he also had his I'm struggling to find the right word. Leadership? He had loyal followers. He had people who were loyal to him and who loved what he was doing and who was all about that and who would die for him, is what I'm trying to say. And then we have the winds of Shamash. Oh, fascinating. Oh, it thinks I'm being idle. Okay, let's go kill some Odin. Hey, Chipotle! Thank you for resubscribing. Welcome back to the fold. That's funny. Charisma! Yeah, charisma is a good way to put it. So that's his flame sword. And then we also have his drop kick. That's hilarious, and I love it. I love it. He seems like that kind, like, it makes so much sense that they made him a warrior because, like, he's a tank. He doesn't go... It wouldn't be right for a character, like, as fabled as Gilgamesh, as powerful and, like, kind of, like, wild to imagine. Like, just, like, if a human being like Gilgamesh existed nowadays, he would be unbelievably, like, he would be like unfathomably like strong and like cool. So it makes sense that you wouldn't want him to be a character who would die really fast. It also makes sense that he would be a character where you want to give him moves that feel like they're very impactful and like there's a weightiness to them, like that. And then we have the beacon. Come to me. And then we have the 4, which is a, like, sandstorm. And then you can do something with the sword of flame and the interesting. And the sword. You can do something with the sword and the wind, but I'm not sure what it is because I've only played Gilgamesh once and I'm not very good at it. He's a squishy mortal and will one day die. Yeah, well, and like that's another interesting thing that I wanted to bring up about Smite is that, like, for as much that it is supposed to be the battlefield of the gods, first of all, like, clearly there's no Jesus. Like, clearly there's certain kinds of gods that we're not touching here. And we're not touching any of the ones that people presently, in the West at least, worship, for one. For 2, we're straying more towards myths and legends and fables. Now, like, Morgan Le Fay is not really a god. I mean, I guess you could argue that like, you know, Merlin and Morgan Le Fay were, like, powerful enough to kind of be gods, and they weren't, like, necessarily entirely human. So, like, there's an argument that you could maybe make there. But King Arthur's also in the game, and King Arthur's supposed to be immortal as hell. And he's not a god, he's just a guy. So, or a mythical figure of lore. So it's interesting to see, like, as Smite has gone on, they still do add in gods, but they also bring in myths and legends more. So it's more just kind of mythical. And a lot of the gods that they use are gods that fall more into myth and legend. Like, for us, the Greco-Roman gods and the Egyptian gods, people don't necessarily worship them as much anymore as they did back in the day. And so we know more about them from their, like, entertaining myths and legends. Jesus. Which I get, but still. Morgan the Fairy. Yeah, so you could argue, but, like, even the Fae back then, like, the Fae were otherworldly creatures, but they weren't gods necessarily. Whereas, like, Ganesh. Okay, so I was saying Ganesh right. Ganesh is a god. And Ganesh is a god that, like, people still worship Ganesh. Like, Ganesh is still a hippity hoppity thing. Let's go look at Ganesh because his moveset is pretty cool. As far as Ganesh, I am mostly familiar with Ganesh through the myth of Parvati slash Lakshmi and Shiva, and like him being their son and like born with the head of an elephant, and that being a whole thing. But I'm not familiar with the myths of Ganesh himself, personally. The Kali conversation? I'm not sure what the Kali conversation is. Ganesh is a capital G god, yes. The reason I said kind of a thing is because SMITE is an international game. I'm not sure how much of a footprint SMITE has in the regions where like Hinduism is more prominent. So I'm not sure, like, I don't actually know. I don't actually know how many people play the, like, I know there's Japanese players, I know there's players from all around the world, but I'm not actually sure how many Hindu players play. You know what I mean? Not quite born with the head of an elephant? Really? The one that I heard was that he was born. Okay. I will take it. As I said, I am not the most familiar with, like, I grew up with Greco-Roman, and then I grew up with some specific gods like Pele. But I'm not, by no means an expert on all 116 gods in SMITE. Although I would love to be someday. So Ganesha is a support. So Ganesh mostly like has a lot of abilities that, right? Ganesh is support, right? Ganesh is a guardian. Am I right in saying that, or am I believe Ganesh is a guardian. Oh, got it. So there was a huge controversy with Kali's old design. Got it. Yeah, I wasn't there for Kali's old design, so I didn't even know that. A very giving support god. Yeah. So the thing about Ganesh that is his passive ability is that anytime Ganesh kills someone, the credit for the kill goes to the nearest god on your team. And so this is important because, like, as far as like his role in the game goes, you play supports like Ganesh with the carries in the game. And when you're playing with the carries, you want the carries to get the kill in the last hit, because even though you both get gold, whoever lands the last hit gets more gold in EXP. And the carry is basically the, like, glass cannon who gets really buffed by the end of the game. And so you want the carry to level up really, really, really fast. And so Ganesh automatically, like, there's no chance that you can kill steal from a carry because Ganesh will automatically give you the credit for, for killing someone, which is super cool. And he has a greater range to get credit for assists too. So then his abilities are, he curses enemies with his considerable willpower, damaging them. He begins chanting and rises into the lotus position where he is slowed slightly but may travel freely in all directions. While chanting, he silences enemy gods in a cone in front of him. Ganesh charges forward, hooking an enemy with his goad, holding them in place and damaging the enemy before knocking them up. And then this one, which is just like I die to every time, the Dharmic Pillars. He summons the 4 great pillars of righteousness to imprison his enemies, which is such a wildly interesting interpretation. It's fine. Between each pillars, a magical field is created, and enemies who pass through the field take damage, are slowed, and have their protections reduced. So let's look at what these look like.
Your evil strengthens our resolve.
Your evil strengthens our resolve, he says. He's a very righteous god. He's a good guy. There's that where he silences people. There's that where he goes to beat people up. And then there's his ult, which is awesome.
Your wickedness stops here.
which, like, your allies can get in here, but your friends cannot. I really love Ganesh, actually, as a god. Like, I will probably one day play Ganesh. I will learn Ganesh and learn how to play him. Right now, like, my best support is Yamoja, for sure. That's so cool. That's so cool. Good guy / elephant. Good guy. If they're his enemies, they're by definition not righteous. That's fair. Ganesh and Pele are your favorites in this game so far. Let us go. Okay, let's look at Yamoja. Because Yamoja is a goddess I'm very intimately familiar with, and I play her all the time, and I love her, and I love how they put her in this game, and I'm just a big fan. I'm a huge fan of Yamoja.
What's the plan?
And we'll go with her original skin. I love Yamoja. So again, Yamoja is the goddess of rivers, also the goddess of oceans, also the goddess mother of all creation, the goddess of healing, sometimes the goddess of fertility, sometimes the goddess of compassion, lots of different stuff like that. But very water infused character. Like very all about water. So first of all, she walks on water. That's so cool. Look at her walking on water. She's so cool. She's so cool. And she like she moves like this all the time. No matter how much she attacks, she does not like, she remains this like solid core. Like her posture remains like very regal and strong. And that's like one of my favorite things about the way that they interpreted Yamoja, is that they interpreted her like with so much pride as the mother goddess of all creation. And you can like see in how she carries herself that she feels like she, you know, is, I don't want to say supreme, because Yamoja's not like a god in the Greco-Roman sense where they feel, where they like have, where they're very like fallible to like pride and things like that. But like you can tell she's like, I created this world. You know what I mean? So she attacks with water like this. The water that she attacks with can heal her allies. So Yamoja is a healer. She's also a tank, but she's a healer. So her first ability is that she attacks with water. She has this ability which allows her to throw giant water bubbles at people that will slow people. And then her second offensive ability is that she does this, which stuns people and is very powerful. Her second ability is this, which is technically an attack, but it's also a heal. So if you throw it at an ally, it'll bounce off the ally, heal them, give them a shield, and then bounce off the ally and ping pong between any other allies that are nearby, including yourself. So it heals the person in front of you and also everybody else on your team. So healing waters. That's that one. And then she has this freaking wild ability where she creates speed hoops that you can jump through, and also speed hoops that send you backwards. Whee! Just a wild ability that has many uses. For example, lol. You just do that to, oh, he's just gonna stand there? You're not gonna keep walking? Oh, I guess he's done. And then her ult is this. And when she's standing in the center of it, she regenerates her magical power, which is called Omi, which means water. And so she literally charges a bar full of water and then uses her powers to throw water at people. And she doesn't use mana the way that the other gods use mana. She uses water instead to attack. So I love Yamoja. The Odin bots get stuck a lot. That's fair. Hey, Silver Streak. They have a lot of gods. Yeah, so this is Umoja, and I really like the way that they've interpreted her, because one of the things that makes Umoja a fascinating goddess to me is that, like, I've always had a fascination with, like, goddesses of yore. I've had a fascination with, like, mother creation goddesses and, like, the ways that they were interpreted, especially thousands of years ago before we had, like, the Virgin Mary and we got all restrictive about how women are allowed to present themselves. And so, like, Pele is another example, but Pele is a lot more aggressive than Umoja is, whereas Umoja can get very angry, which I feel like her ultimate ability shows, because she's literally creating, like, walls of water, like she's parting the Nile to collapse upon the world. So she can be angry. Like, you don't fuck with Umoja. Literally, one of her legends is about, like, I don't want to misquote what exactly happened because I don't completely remember. But essentially, humanity does something that deeply upsets and betrays her, and she creates a huge amount of destruction, like a huge flood, and then she leaves and she goes and hides in the waters forever. And occasionally she'll come out and offer aid and support and help to somebody, but most of the time she stays in the water and is like, I ain't fucking with you guys because y'all suck. Like, I used to be around all the time and then y'all did that to me. I ain't coming back out anymore. And so she has an angry, you know, she's a goddess of water. Water has an angry streak as well, even though it's mostly it's often, like, healing and necessary for life and all that jazz, but they factor in both aspects of her very well, I think, into her abilities. And she's, like, a really interesting character to play, especially this third one, which is, like, a purely, like, non-inherently lethal ability, but helps. Yeah. But portrays her very well, in my opinion. Water. I have no water. I am super biased towards a badass, sexy black goddess that they did a great job of representing. What can I say? I like good jobs. I like it when people do good jobs. I'm biased towards good jobs. So, let's try to find a god that has. Let's try to find a god that has, like, multiple kinds of ways that you can interpret them, in terms of their lore, which. Cupid is just like I just want to say that Cupid is just, like, literally a giant, like, little baby thing. But Cupid sucks to play against. Cupid's really strong. Who was I looking for? I was looking for somebody specific. This is Mercury. Okay. Interesting. Or Hermes. Be Artemis for Ace Rep, yeah? I'm trying to think of, like, somebody that I can speak confidently enough about, and I don't remember who I was originally thinking of. Poseidon's an interesting... Poseidon, they did an interesting interpretation of him. Poseidon is a god where, like, I'm not sure... Poseidon and also, where's Hades? Hades. Hades, yeah, distribute blight, devour souls, strike from below, bring agony to all. Hades is a really interesting god because, like, yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can interpret Hades. Yeah, it's not really Hades in lore, right? There's a lot of ways that you can interpret Hades, and I feel like they went with like, King of the Underworld, God of Death, let's lean all into that, and, like, not actually, like, what the source material says about Hades as much. Guardian of the Sand? I'm not sure who you mean. Nobody's comfy with death, but that's not so like in the original myths, like Zeus, Hades, and Poseidon were all like, hey, yo, we just overthrew our parents. It's time to split up who the world belongs to. Rock, paper, scissors, brah. And like Zeus got the skies, and Zeus was like, yeah, and like, you know, the earth yellow, and Poseidon got the sea, and he was like, aight, that's fine. And Hades got the fucking underworld, and he was like, god dang it, the underworld, boo. Nobody likes and like Hades was like alone, isolated all the time. He couldn't come hang out with the other gods. He literally has a myth where he kidnaps a woman and tries to force her to stay with him because he's so lonely and he thought she was pretty and he just wanted to be married to her. And there's like a lot of different ways that you can interpret that myth as well. But like generally speaking, a lot of like Hades was kind of a chill, like, yeah, he like sentenced you to eternal damnation, but like when Orpheus was like, yo, Hades, can I have my wife back? Hades was like, I mean, I guess you can if you can obey my quest or whatever. Like, just walk out of here without turning around to look at her, and I guess you can keep her. And freaking Orpheus couldn't even do that. But like Hades was pretty chill as far as like god of the underworld goes. Like, he's not a like death god in the way that we think of death gods. The underworld wasn't really like death in the way that like we think. Like, the underworld wasn't hell, and it wasn't like death. It was like another land for people to live in, and like you could suffer there, but you also could not necessarily suffer there, and it was just like a place. It's just that everybody who lived in there weren't allowed to go outside of it, you know? Yeah, it was just where you went when you died. Isn't Thanatos the death god? I'm not 100% sure about Thanatos. It was very boring. More standing around doing nothing for eternity. Yeah, and with Persephone, you can find a lot of different like translations of that myth too. I once did an experimental theater stage play where we like read the original myths of Persephone and made a play about it, and Persephone and Orpheus and Hades and like the underworld, and we did a bunch of things about that. So like I'm most familiar with Hades from those and from reading multiple different versions of what happens in those tales. And so from those tales, like Persephone, like how willing she was to stay in the underworld kind of varies depending on the version that you read. In some of them, he like literally kidnapped her. In other ones, she ran away from her mom because her mom was like way too stifling, and she was like, not now, mom, I'm gonna go run away with this man to the underworld, and you can't catch me, I'm rebellious. And like in another one, she kind of like did fall for Hades over time. Like they're like largely considered like a chill couple. Like Persephone likes him well enough. He adores her and will do literally anything for her, basically. And in some of the myths, she eats the like seed of the pomegranate herself on purpose because she doesn't want to have to be with her mom 100% of the time. So there's like a lot of different interpretations of the myth, right? Persephone's also in this game. Yeah, exactly, Silver Streak. It doesn't have to be problematic if you don't want it to be. But yeah, so, you know, the interesting thing is that obviously with Hades, it is always easiest to go with, oh, he's the god of death, so he does a lot of dead things, like death from below. He applies blight to the enemy because he's a death god and stuff. But actually, Hades was like, I honestly think that instead of Hades being a mage, you could have made Hades a guardian, or like a warrior, maybe a guardian, maybe like a magic guardian. And that would have made a lot more sense as far as who Hades the god was. Like, he was really just a lot more of a chill guy. He really wasn't here to try and kill you or anything like that. He didn't love collecting souls. It was just the job he got stuck with. So this interpretation of Hades is not necessarily one that's true to the source material, in the same way that Aphrodite wasn't true to the source material, where Aphrodite was the goddess of beauty, so they kind of just went with our perception of beauty. Hades is the god of the underworld. They kind of went with our perception of what death is, instead of what the Greeks and the Romans actually considered death to be at the time. So yeah, let's look at Persephone. I've never actually played Persephone, but ooh, this is cool. From death, new life. Oh, what an interesting interpretation of Persephone. Yo, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool as hell. That incorporates Hades. It incorporates the fact that, like, you know, when Persephone goes to the underworld, that's when we have winter. So when she comes back out, that's when the plants spring to life. Persephone is here noted as queen of the underworld. She's often noted as like a spring being, not necessarily a goddess because Demeter is the goddess, but like she's considered kind of like the bringer of spring in a lot of places. And while they clearly were influenced by that idea, they went more with the queen of the underworld, which is not an interpretation you get to see of Persephone. That's really cool. His bloodfire skin was so much worse. Like harvest god, Demeter is more harvest goddess. Pomegranate seeds. When she dies, she travels to the plane of death where she can place 6 harvest seeds that will sprout when she respawns. Interesting. She gets to make money as part of her passive ability. That's very cool. Bone Rush, she calls forth a skeletal warrior from the underworld. See, that makes a lot more sense for Persephone. I believe... I'm not 100% sure how much this is in the original myths and how much this was, like, my interpretation of how Persephone and Hades would be. But I always kind of felt like Persephone was the one who called the shots. Again, because Hades was really like, oh my god, bless the ground upon which you walk, my beautiful wife, I love you. You saved me from, like, you have no idea, like, in the cultural parlance of the day. Hey! We just broke our arm with that last backpack. Hey, Super Giant, hire me. No, Super Giant, thank you for the $5. Thank you so much. I appreciated it. You guys did a great job with Persephone and Hades. I need to beat Hades because I still haven't yet. I need to go back and beat it because I was getting really good there for a bit. Yeah, this Persephone is black-green. Yeah, so, yeah, her mother is the goddess of the harvest. So yeah, just great interpretation of Persephone. I love this. This is amazing. Like, see, and like, that's one of the fun things about Smite is that, like, yeah, you have your Aphrodites in the game where, again, that was very early. Gaming culture was different. And I think that, like, when you're making a game about, like, especially Greco-Roman gods, and you're making a game where the gods just need to kill each other, you're not necessarily, especially with gods as, what's the word that I want to use here? Who have been separated from their original cultures as much as the Greco-Roman gods and goddesses and heroes of myth and lore and legend. Like, we've really interpreted and reinterpreted them just over and over and over. And we really project a lot of our thoughts and biases and interpretations of concepts onto them in a way that, like, the Greeks and the Romans just, like, didn't have the same concepts of beauty and death and love and attraction and life that we did. And so when you actually approach the source material, there's a lot of different, especially for these kinds of gods, there's a lot of different ways that you can interpret them. And it's so cool to see them taking that kind of creative liberty to incorporate aspects of gods that in our popular culture, Persephone's just this girl who got kidnapped and stuck in the underworld, and she's like, and like that's kind of all we really hear of her. She's spring, she's beautiful, her mom loves her and is angry about her. That's Persephone. But she has a lot more to her, and you can interpret her abilities and her... She is queen of the underworld. Like, she's served as queen of the underworld for a long-ass time. So yeah, that's great. I love that. Check her in-game lore. Oh, interesting. So, she and Hades were betrothed in this version. And then Demeter the manipulative mom was like, boo, I'm gonna kill everybody if you don't give me my daughter back. And Zeus was like, okay, guys, stop. But then she ate the seed of the underworld, the seed of the pomegranate. And Hades and Persephone, like... had the plan about it. And she was like, I'm into this. Let's go. The time has now come for Persephone, queen of the underworld, to return and take her throne beside Hades. She has seen the gods struggle against themselves at the expense of those around them. She can no longer watch as droves of mortal souls arrive, their lives cut short while they struggled for each and every victory as the gods they pray to cause their suffering. Soon all gods will see why she is called Clever Persephone. Very cool. Very, very cool. Goodbye, Dawn. Thanks for coming. You're interested with what they did with Ra? Sure, yeah. Ra is interesting. First of all, super buff. Also, appropriate skin tone. But so Ra has the power to both heal and hurt, and he's like a mage. He's mage class, so he's like really about the abilities, and he's kind of squishy, but he can do a lot of damage with his abilities. It's a lot of... He's, I mean, he is... Oh, and I love that you can kind of see, like, I love... He's got like scars, or maybe those are supposed to be veins, but I think they look like scars to me all over him. No, maybe they're his veins. Maybe they're meant to be his veins. You can see his veins here too. Why are his veins like that? I was gonna say if they had his scars, like there's a lot of Egyptian like legends about basically them fighting each other. And Ra is one of the gods, I believe, if I'm thinking of the right ones. Like Ra is one of those gods who gets like taken out and then like brought back and taken out and brought back a couple of times. As everybody's fighting for, like, I believe there's a couple of myths about Ra and Isis, and like they had a whole rivalry, I guess you could put it. Good night, Barking Man. So he is Rasputin. Ra is very complex. The Egyptian society was around for thousands of years, and so like when you look into Egyptian lore and their stories, you can see the interpretations happen over time, like as you try to figure things out, and as like originally Ra was like one of the main gods, and then like depending on the location in Egypt he wasn't a main god, or like depending on the time period people were like, I'm descended from Ra, or now that person's no longer in charge, Ra's not that important anymore, guys, this god is important now. Like there's a lot of that kind of thing going on. So like there's a lot to unpack with Ra, and like I have only barely skimmed the surface, so I don't feel confident talking about Ra at all. And it's the god with the revive. The Eye of Ra is a big deal in the mythos, but I don't know. I think he still had two eyes. I think the Eye of Ra was more... I don't know. Well, I guess I won't comment on it because I'm again I do not consider myself an expert at all, so I don't think that I would know more than anybody else here. 6,000 years of consistent culture that we know of. Yeah, some believed he was the creator god, some believed he was the sun god. There's a couple of different stories about like how life came to be. In some cases, yeah, Ra was the originator god, and in some cases Ra came from the originator god. And like there's all these myths about like the saliva of Ra turning into, and like the blood of Ra turning into different Egyptian gods, and like there's just a whole lot that you can unpack and that you can ways that you can interpret him, because he like literally just went in and out of vogue depending on who was in charge and who wanted to say that they were descended from him or not. So he's very complicated, but he has a lot of interesting, he's got a lot of like beam attacks. Like he's a big beam person. He has like a circle of magic that heals people. And I believe if enemies are in there, enemies get damaged, allies are healed. He has this like celestial beam attack where he like jumps into the air and gets to aim this beam of light that attacks people. He can explode himself, it appears. And he does like I believe this is like a straight line of damage in his path. Bastet's also in this game. I am figuring I don't believe that there are any yet. Connor, do you know whether there are any? Sobek. There are not. Yeah, and well, and like I said, that's one of the things about SMITE is that they have a lot of Asian gods, at least. They have a lot of Asian gods. They have a lot of Greco-Roman gods. They have a lot of Norse gods, and they have a lot of Egyptian gods. They don't really have. They have 2 African gods. They don't even have Anansi. Why do they not have Anansi yet? Come on, Anansi's like the most famous African god, I feel like. Yeah, and they don't have any, like, I don't believe that they have any indigenous gods that I've seen. Yeah, so I've been dissatisfied with that. I'm kind of like, listen, Morgan Le Fay's badass, don't get me wrong, but I kind of feel like it's fine. Like, do we need the Arthurian legends in here? Like, it's cool. I'm not saying it's not cool. But, like, when we are so stacked on, like, Western mythology, like, we're really stacked on Western mythology right now, and we're real stacked on white people. So, like, I don't think it would hurt to introduce some gods. But, like, at the same time, for the people who are creating SMITE, they want to create gods that people are familiar with so that they'll buy them. And I'm sure that they feel like outside of adding in gods for, I mean, I guess I can't assume what the SMITE developers are thinking. I can't assume anything about that. Maybe they just feel a lot less comfortable creating gods based on mythology that they didn't grow up with, which I'm sure a lot of them didn't. So, yeah. The Arthurian characters are very heavily requested from the player base. Yeah, there you go. The voice of Nancy Drew, voice of what? Well, I'm gonna have to learn how to play Tiamat.
Enemies have returned middle. I'll attack left lane. I'm on it. I'm returning middle lane. Set up an ambush here. I'm returning left lane.
Good job, Nancy Drew.
I'm returning right lane.
Oh, they only make gods they're personally familiar with so that it's less likely they'll misrepresent cultures. Well, then I hope that they hire people who have color. I hope they hire people of color because they, like, go hire some indigenous people and go hire more African people, please.
Enemy missing.
None of the main proper Celtic gods? They would misinform a lot of people too. And with First Nation gods, from what I understand from the myths and legends that I've read, like a lot of different tribes had different interpretations and understandings of the lore of the individual gods, so I can see how that could be like complicated if you're like privileging one version of this god over all of the other versions that exist. And also maybe not, yeah, I mean, and I super get it. I super get why you wouldn't want to necessarily go there, because it's dangerous and scary, right? But also I feel like they need to go there. Because it's weird to have a game about like myths and lore and legends and to have there's so much lore. There's so many. There's just so much out there is the thing. There's so much out. There's so many cool. Come on, not even Anansi. Anansi, like, I would have assumed Anansi would have been there first. He's a trickster god. He's great. He transforms into a spider. He's awesome. Like, Anansi's so cool. They could even do like Brer Rabbit. Like, that's an like African American folklore figure, at least. That's like a back in slavery times African American folklore Brer Rabbit is. But like, you know, we've got like other figures that like aren't, and even like, you know, Umoja, while an African goddess, there's a lot like within African American culture, depending on like how rooted you are to like your family traditions and how much your family was able to carry them over them when they got abducted into the slave trade and shipped over to America. Umoja is a goddess that a lot of African Americans are familiar with. Again, Anansi, like there's a lot there that like they're not obscure by any means. Like they're just not obscure by any means, so it's surprising that they're missing. And it's, yeah, I would just definitely want to see more of them. I think that like when you have a game like this, you have to take the risk of trying to represent them more, because I think you do, as fraught as the process can be for trying to include characters that are often misrepresented and so more difficult to represent, I think it's even more important that they get represented at all, because so many people are not familiar with First Nation myths or African folklore, or the fact that African American folklore exists at all, and that like that's a thing that happened. So yeah. Well, so even Umoja is not necessarily just Yoruba is the thing. Along with Olorun, like these are gods and goddesses who kind of span the continent of Africa, and like lots of different groups in Africa believe in them and like believe kind of varying things about them. So I think they're like, this is the Yoruban version. And so I think like, you know, Umoja, and I think they're like, these are like, this is where we got our interpretation from. These are Yoruban. But yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, like, as a dev of color, there's a lot of dev of colors out there who need jobs who they could hire. So, I'm sure that it is difficult to, like, don't get me wrong. I think that it's difficult to find people, like, who are free at the right time and who have enough familiarity with the topic. But I think that, like, that should be something where they're, like, funneling a lot of their resources into. That's just me. That's like, that would be my priority if I were them, and if I were anywhere on that team, I would be like, no, we need to prioritize this, and it doesn't matter if it goes poorly, really, because that's temporary. But companies are also very afraid of a lot of things, so they, like, you know, diversity isn't necessarily important unless it brings them dollars. With a lot of companies, I don't know if the SMITE team is like that at all, but I know that that is how a lot of companies think about incorporating this kind of stuff, is like, it's in vogue right now, so we'll do it, or we think it'll win us points, so we'll do it. but not necessarily something that they'll put a ton of money and effort into doing of their own accord just because it's the right thing to do, unless they can see themselves recouping extra off of that. Yeah, when they get it wrong, they also get yelled at. I think that that's, I mean, you're not wrong, but, you know, there used to be that saying, there's no bad publicity. Like, all publicity is good publicity. And to some extent, I think that saying still applies. Not always. I think there is bad publicity now, but to some extent, I think that phrase still applies. And again, that's another reason why it's important for, like, when those kinds of controversies about characters come out, it's important for white people to take a back seat and amplify the voices of whichever culture is being represented and what they're saying. Because it's not productive to have people be like, people who are genuinely trying to do the right thing and fucking up. It's not productive to just be yelling at them. And a lot of the time, at least from what I've witnessed on Twitter, you can have, like, people from the community making valid points, and then you have a lot of white people who just, like, want something to yell at and, like, are excited about getting to be the ally and getting to show how not racist they are, and will just scream over them. And, like, now it's not a nuanced discussion about representation of this kind of culture in the media. Now it's just a bunch of white people saying that it needs to be taken down and hidden forever. And, like, whereas, like, the original people might have been saying, this is wrong, make changes, not remove this, you know? So we do see that happen. Oh, man, so many complicated processes. But if we don't like, normalize the process of trying to incorporate diversity, having sensitivity readers, running it by people in those cultures before we release it, and then, like, trying to learn from the mess ups, then we just won't have diversity. And that's on the companies. That's on the companies to strap on their big boy pants. You know? That's on them to just to do the thing and to, you know, as a responsibility as a storyteller. But again, that's my opinion. That's just my opinion. That's just how I view things. Good night, Silver. Thanks for coming. Ravana. Oh, Ravana! I know Ravana. Whoa. Wild. All right, hang on. I'm going back to catch up on the chat. Anansi has been pretty highly requested. Good. I hope we get Anansi is literally not even. I learned about Anansi in Kansas when I was a child, when a person gave, like, a theater performance, and then I heard about him, like, 6 more times while I was in Kansas. Like, Anansi is not obscure. I can't believe that. Like, I was, like, the only black person in the room ever, and yet I knew about Anansi, and I'm like, it's wild to me that Anansi's not in there. Yeah, and I do think that there's ways to try and make sure it doesn't go so horribly wrong. Like, yeah, you can mess up big time, but if you are working with people from that culture to design these characters, and you're, like, focus group testing with people from those characters, like, you really shouldn't have a big outrage. The thing is, a lot of companies that have those big outrages about characters, they don't do that, or they don't care. Like, or, you know, they're putting out their, like, this is their design and that's the design that they're going for, and they don't really care what anybody has to say about it because it's what they want. If you're trying to be sensitive, I feel like there's so much less of a chance that any kind of outrage is going to happen because you're listening to people during the process of creation. Again, an example is Moana, which, like, while it had its own problems, is generally, like, much more favorably received, because they tried really hard. And there were still problems with that production, but they incorporated a lot of, you know, they tried really hard to actually incorporate people from the culture and to honor the culture. Maui 2022. I tried so hard and got a lot right, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so that's me talking about Smite. Do you guys want to see me try to play as Umoja? I'll play as, do you want to see that? I don't know. Hi, Coop. He's off the screen. That was Ravana. He's covered in gold. But yeah, I feel like I kind of touched on a lot of things and my brain is a little bit melting. But yes, okay. I'll play a regular arena match because less can go wrong in that one. And I'll try to talk this time because I think I've been hey GM Rabbit. I think I've played enough Smite at this point and I'm familiar enough with Umoja. I might not be good playing on stream because I'll be distracted, but I think that I can at least talk while I'm playing now. Crush some fools. That's what I'll do with me, Umoja. Let me in. Yeah. But moral of the story, Smite is just a really fascinating game. And like the tale that it tells as far as like where they were beginning of development and where they are now is a tale of growth. It's a tale of like being more responsible with, you know, the figures that they're handling and the history that they're handling. And it's like a great story. Like it's a tale of progression. It's a great story. That's why I wanted to start off with Aphrodite because like they've come so far since Aphrodite. And I think that that's super cool. The Cthulhu skin. Yeah, that's why I really want them to do other kinds of gods. I'm ready. How often do they release new gods? Let me in! Let me in! $6 a year. One every other patch. Okay. So after this next patch, we'll get a new one. I wonder who it's gonna be. Morgan Le Fay is a pretty cool character to add. Can I be Umoja? And I'll do green Umoja just because it's easier to see her attacks. I'll lock in. Go team! They released a preview trailer for the next god. I'd love to try to speculate about the next god. I love speculation. Oh, they went with Cthulhu then. Yeah, because Cthulhu's a guardian. So they're really just trying to, they're doing the good thing over here. My mouse has been dying, and so every now and then it just like stops moving appropriately. This person is figuring it out. My pro gaming career. Oh, okay, cool. I'd love to speculate. I'm all about this. Also, Umoja's hair in this is very cool. Just adding. Are they gonna lock in or are they not gonna lock in? Oh, Izanami now. Okay, locked in. Versus Bologna. Oh, another Discordia on the other team. Oh, wait. They didn't go with Discordia. Okay. 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 Let's just hope that my mouse doesn't die, because that's mostly what I'm afraid of. Yeah, well, and again, So for Smite games, Connor already has a Discord with a lot of people who play Smite, and I play Smite in that Discord instead. So there is an open invitation in the Fold chat. On Discord, like in the hashtag the Fold chat. There's an open invitation in there for anybody who wants to play Smite to join Connor's Smite Discord. Connor's like super smart, knows everything that there is to know about Smite, can totally teach you how to play. Taught me how to play. Taught Zek too. So yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Yellow Ring joined us the other day and was playing with us. So.
They're probably toxic, like me.
Yamoja. All right, let's go with Wa-da-bum, wa-da-bum-bum. Wa-bum-ba-ba-dum, wa-dum. Yo, what up? What up, everybody? This is a very excited group that we've got here. Cthulhu's asleep, though. So what we're doing here is we're basically just like getting buffs for the other characters because I don't need these buffs because I'm a support. So I'm just gonna be healing people and like tanking people and trying to rescue people. That's my job right now. Okay. I usually do bad the very first game because I'm a person who needs a warm-up for sure. Ow. Okay. Ah! I'm out of mana. Okay, chaos, chaos, chaos. Hell yeah! Hell yeah, Morgan! Nice job, run away. Need to heal. Okay, we're doing great so far. Got first blood. Usually play support, but to know Gilgamesh is support. So support is considered both guardian and warrior, I think. It kind of depends on the mode that you're playing in. But Yamoja is a guardian, so Yamoja has like healing and stuff on the side. Ooh. Oh, Cthulhu! I'm sorry I couldn't get there in time. I'm sorry, Cthulhu. I am not going to be playing at my best today. So, like, my goal when I play Yamoja in this mode is basically just to try to keep other people alive while they kill people. I think we might be demolishing thus far. Zanami is very excited. Okay, whoop! From behind you. Okay, got you. So when I play Yamoja, I level up her heal first, especially in this mode, because I just need to try to help people not die. And that's where I feel like my most useful utility is. My second most useful utility is to do that, to help people get away and to also capture people within my wave. So when I do the big wave like that, ah, fuck. I'll go over here. When I do the big wave on people, okay, I'm gonna go B. When I do the big wave thing, my friends can run in through it, but enemies cannot. Then this one, yes. Okay. And so I can trap people basically. I can pin them and I can make it so that they can't escape and so that people can get the kill, or I can help my friends escape by creating a wall. So I love Yamoja because she's a super, super tactical character.
slain.
Oh no, an ally? I'm sorry, I wasn't helping. There you go. I'm out of mana. I cannot help you. I do not have... This Izanami is intense. Ah, damn. I tried. Okay, so this guy, this Thanatos is getting us a little bit good. But I need to manage my mana a little bit better. Yeah? Yeah, bro? I'm like, yeah, I don't know why you were coming after the tank. You thought you could kill me just because I'm like a magic casting lady. Okay, Izanami got away. Whoop! Okay, now I gotta run. Yeep! Run! No, 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 no! Ha! You didn't kill me, fool! Oh, we got them instead! Heck yeah! That was great. Okay. Good play. Alright, okay, so because I'm a tank, like, I'm a really hard to kill, but, like, I can be killed, because I don't, by certain characters really easily because I don't have a dash. So instead I have my, like, little thing that I get to port out. Oh! Didn't make it in time. At least I got my Genji cap on. I have this item that gives them more protection when I heal them now. And again, my job is mostly just to hang out and make sure nobody dies. And be like strategical help. Like so! You're trapped now! You're trapped now! You're dead now! I like Yamoja. I love playing as Yamoja. She's so fun. I just get to like hang back and be completely strategic. It's so fun. I just get to like be like, let me just, and like, it's good. It's great. It's great. She's super fun to play. Okay, how are we doing? Everybody's alive, everybody's doing good, nobody's watching the minions. In this game mode, basically the goal is to get our guys into their portal. But I think what I'm seeing is that nobody has been paying attention. Damn it. What I'm seeing is that nobody has been paying attention to our guys, I think. So we need to get more of our guys into the portals. See, it like sends them into the portals and then we win points basically. Oh! Whoop. My bad, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was explaining how the game mode works. Dance. Hey, Rom! What up? There's no lanes in this mode. In this mode, it's just this. Like, it's guys originate from these two areas and these two areas, and they head for the opposite portal, and that's the whole thing. Which is why this mode is easiest and kind of like most fun to play. Easiest to play when you're trying to learn new gods, because it's just this chaos. So lots of time to learn how to fight other people repeatedly. We're gonna win so hard. This is like not even funny how hard we're winning right now. I feel a little bit bad, but I'm a back. They don't need me. Hey Rom, thank you for the raid. Can someone please thank Rom for the raid? And then I'm gonna get What do we have? We have mostly magical people. I'll reduce their magical protections. Oops, and I can get this. And I can level up twice. 3 times because I didn't pay attention.
Dance moves. Double kill. Triple kill.
Let me see if I can...
Oh, here we go. We're looking so good. Shut down.
Ah, Merlin! Merlin, run! Merlin, keep running! Keep run! Ooh. Oh, they're coming after me now. No, they're not. They're trying to stage a comeback here. Where's our other... Where's the rest of our whole team? Oh, they're all dead. Ooh-wee-oo. There we go. Hello, fight me. I'm the one you want.
An enemy has been slain.
Please don't go in the portal. I do so little damage! Thank you, Morgan. Oh, this Morgan is just out here, like, gunning for it. This Morgan is aggressive. I mean, I'm all for it. Morgan's on my team. I'm aggressive, too. Let's do this one! Oh. This one, then. All of us healing. Yeah. Go, 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 team. This is brutal. This is just an absolute destruction. Was that... That was the Infinity Biddy animation. That's the one that Rom came up with the music for. I was wondering what that sound was. I was like, was that from this game? Is that somebody's attack? No, it was the streaming though. So we're about to win. Like, really intensely win. Like, this is not even a little bit close. This is a little bit, 242 to 2, and they surrendered. The animation's by Kaimatin, our friend John. Good game! Good game, team! We all get teamwork for being great. Good teamwork, everybody. Oh, they said I was friendly. I'll take it. GG's. No kills, which is fine because I'm a support. 0 deaths, 30 assists. I assisted on 30 people dying. I did damage to people right before they died 30 times. That's amazing. I didn't even have to heal that much. This is what? That's so many. Oh man, our Izanami was intense. That's fair. Sorry. That's fair. So, I did exactly what I set out to do. I didn't die and I healed everybody and I made sure that they did not die that many times. Who died the most times? No, they all died equally. They just all got all killed multiple times. That sucks. But like, cool. I placed a ward. Okay. So yeah, that is, SMITE. That is... One person didn't give me a commendation. That is SMITE. That is how you play SMITE. That is one of the modes of SMITE. Let me see. How long have I been streaming for? Oh, it's been 3 hours. Oh, it's 10 o'clock. Okay. I don't have a chest. I have a coupon for 50% off skins. Yeah. Good night, Rob. Thank you for coming and thank you for the raid. I'll probably stop here too. It's a little bit late for me, so I will exit. Thank you. Okay, I'll open that and I'll watch it later. Hopefully it won't autoplay. So let's go over to IRL. Hi! So we're gonna end the stream. Would you all like to share one good thing that happened to you or one good thing you're looking forward to tomorrow? That was me. That was a great game of Smite. I'm glad that I got to show you guys how great I am at Smite today, on this day. After like last stream where I was still a little bit of a baby and then I played a lot this week because I, you know, was grumpy, so I play Smite when I'm grumpy. It's fine. But yeah, that was a great game, and this was a very fun stream. It's fun to talk about like the different interpretations of gods and all that. Oh, that's great, Mysterio! Oh yay, I'm so happy for you! Drink lots of water tomorrow. It probably won't be that bad, don't worry. The episode of Loki you worked on is now streaming? Oh, I want to watch it even though I haven't even seen any of Loki. You love this. I'm sure you did love this stream, Connor. I'm sure you did. No, I didn't. Thank you for reminding me. Let me see if I can pull it up here because I didn't. I wrote it down and then I completely forgot after the stream. Add it to my wish list, please. Yeah. Yes! Ooh, hexagons. Yes, I'm excited. Thank you for reminding me. Sorry. An appointment with your therapist for the first time in months. Wow. Congratulations. That can be like, God, getting that first appointment, even with the therapist you've seen before, the first appointment is the hardest one just because of like how long you have to wait and like if your insurance, like all that jazz. Good job. It's been quite a few weeks. Today was your last day at your job. Oh, it was kind of sad. But the new job starts Monday. Okay. Well, you know, it's kind of good. It's kind of great when you have a job that you can be sad to leave. Yeah, it's kind of great when you can have a job that makes you sad to leave. That's nice. But I'm very excited for your new job. I hope your new job is excellent. Pippa Magoo! A frog and a spider coexisting? That's a really cool concept for a tattoo. Like, I've never heard of one like that. I'm also afraid of spiders, so it would have never occurred to me. Yeah, I really like that concept. And as Connor says, if anybody wants to learn how to play Smite or play with members from the Fold, a lot of us are in there. Everybody's really friendly. It's a small group of people, so like you don't need, it's not like there's 400 people are in there or something. There's like 10 or something of us, so it's not intimidating at all. Everybody's super friendly. So if you're interested in Smite and you want to learn how to play, Connor has the link right there. No problem. Good night. Sorry. Your friend finally got a copy of... Oh, Gloomhaven! Oh, and you're going to play remotely? That's so cute. I love friendship. That's great. Here, let me see who we can raid. Ooh, yes. Post it in the Fold chat. The Fold, the like stream chat. The Fold. The hashtag Fold chat. Yeah. All right, let me see. Oh no. Oh no, there's two really great streamers that I could raid right now, and I'm not sure which one I want to. How are between Knockout City and BioShock? Which are we feeling? I can't pick between these two wonderful people. Please don't say their names in the chat. I can't do it. But both these games are great games. I've actually never seen Knockout City, but I've heard amazing things about it. So yeah. If you guys don't pick, I'll flip a coin. This will be my coin to flip. Okay. Hit. I don't remember which side I said was which. Okay, hang on. Let's try this again. Okay, I remembered. All right. So we are going to be rating the lovely Ophelia Up. Ophelia Up is a goth drag queen who streams. Right now, she's not streaming in her drag, but still every bit like Ophelia on Ophelia's streams, sometimes somebody redeems something and we go watch old MTV TV shows and like just shoot the poop together, and it's really fun. Like Ophelia has like just like the most lovely sense of humor. So let's go. Let's raid. It's also been a while since I've raided Ophelia, so let's go. Ophelia is so iconic. I love Ophelia. So yeah, just absolutely great, and playing BioShock, which makes a lot of sense. No spoilers, please, as we head in there. I don't know whether Ophelia has ever played this game before, so no spoilers heading on in. I can't tell how far they're in to the game. But thank you guys so much for coming. This was a really fun stream. Thank you for hanging out. I will see you guys again next week. Next Thursday, we have a fun surprise that's going to be happening. And also, I'm going to be on Ruby's panel this weekend. On Sunday at, I believe, 10 a.m. my time, I will be on a panel with a bunch of other wonderful queer people from various media spaces talking about, you know, being queer in our various media spaces. So yeah, be aware of that because I'll be pinging you on the Discord about it. Yes. Thank you guys for coming and watching. This was a fun time. Goodbye. Good night. Okay, let's raid. Get your chariot dances ready. We're getting hype. We're gonna spread the excitement and the positivity to Ophelia. So get your chariot dances ready. Raiding in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.